This is Mass Crusader Iron Cross, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Hit the bell and let's go.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at stevebowtiebryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Hey, this is Jimmy from the Live and in Color with Wolfie D and Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. Would you like to also make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And that's how you're hearing this right now. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, it's made the job of producing multiple podcasts so much easier. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How about yourself?
Man, doing great. Just, churning out these hits, man. Churning out these podcasting, just churning out podcasting gold.
Yeah, it's you're putting out some good stuff. I know. I love our stuff, but I always have to tune into the Wolfie D pod just to get a listen to who y'all are talking to. Y'all have been pulling some great guests.
Yeah, we have Rip Rogers is out now. I hope y'all are enjoying that. If you haven't, definitely go check that out. It's hilarious. He's another one of those, like you say, he's been there, done that, And we got the Hex coming up next week. There's a tag team, former NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions. Allison Kay is part of that tag team. Sienna, she's a former NWA Women's Champion and also a TNA Knockouts Champion. So anyway, cool deal. Very cool to talk to female and then talk to female tag teams, right? I mean, that was, Yeah.
And you had a good show with Tokyo Monster Cahagas, too. It was, good to hear stories from him. And, I'm telling you, y'all just been doing a great job. Hats off to you.
Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. really does. I mean, I work hard at it just like we do on this one, and just try to turn out some good stuff for the people, and hopefully they enjoy it and hopefully they listen. So as you may have seen or noticed already, I went to the NWA Mid-Atlantic Legends Fan Fest reunion. That was awesome. Hopefully got some very big names coming from that for some podcasts. We'll see how we divvy them up, but we're going to have some interesting guests coming up that have done a lot too. I'm very excited. I got to talk to, let me just go around the room here. Of course, I met and talked to Tommy Angel, David Isley, David Crockett, got to talk to him. That was a trip. I wish I could have recorded what I was talking to him about. I mean, he was just, and I did like little mini podcasts with each table. I got to meet, Tommy Young. He raised my hand for a picture. That was awesome. Axe or Mass Superstar, Bill Eadie, however you look at it. He was very nice, very gracious. Got to meet the Mulkeys. Man, the Mulkeys were awesome. Mulkey Mania running wild. Of course, I met Baby Doll, Sergeant Slaughter, Jimmy Valiant, Heath Slater.
Did Jimmy Valiant sell you a gimmick?
He did. He actually did. I bought
He's a hard-working man with that stuff. Hey, I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit.
No, he's the master. He's the master. Sergeant Slaughter had a bunch of cool stuff there, and got to meet Baby Doll, Heath Slater. Got to meet John Schuyler from TNA. Got to meet Rick Link, Man Mountain Link. Man, it was just a lot of cool people there. And Chuck Coates, that's going to be a future guest of ours. Anyway, just a lot of cool, really good people. Gene Ligon, Thunderfoot 2, very cool guest. That's going to be a future guest for us. A lot of great people. I'm very excited to talk to them. And it was a dual mission, one being me a fan and one being me a booker for a couple podcasts, so.
Yeah, all those names you dropped are so amazing. I know I hate that I kind of dropped the ball with my schedule wise, and I kind of got mixed up on the dates it was, and the wife had something else scheduled for us too, so it kind of threw me off. But I would have been a total mark for Sergeant Slaughter with my love of GI Joes and wrestling. So
yeah. I talked to him.
He would have got a few dollars out of me.
Well, I talked to him. I said, hey, do you ever do podcasts? Because we follow each other on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. But, and he's actually shared and reposted some of our stuff, especially if I post something about him, of course, And I was like, hey, have you ever done anything like a podcast? Do you ever go on those? He was like, I tend to shy away from those. And I said, well, if you ever have a chance, 30 minutes, we'd be happy with 30 minutes. Just come on and talk about your G.I. Joe deal, just have a Plastic Sheik episode, whatever, But anyway, so I'm not ruling that out. Got to contact him, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know. We'll see, right? But
yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, he's a pretty big name, so it's we'd love to have him, but sometimes those are harder to get, or they they have full schedules. So
right,
so to say so.
Right, or budgetary constraints. That's
or that too. I was trying to think of the phrasing. That's a good phrasing.
Yeah, but it was awesome, and I highly recommend anyone, if they do it again, definitely. We'll be sharing it. Greg Price, he's a cool dude. Got to meet him and talk to him. He's put these on for decades, so very, very cool. Anyway, so yeah, I got to press the flesh and hopefully get some future guests out of it. And if anything, I got to meet some people that we used to love, man. So it was a lot of fun. So, but anyway, I guess whatever else in wrestling is going on, I'm sure you saw the slap, and I'm not talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock. This is The Rock.
That's yesterday's slap. This is
Chris The Rock. No, but The Rock slapping Cody. What do you think they're going to do with that? I do feel like the match is. Here's my theory. Let me just say this, and then I'll let you talk. Okay. Here's what I think is going to happen. All right. So we know every match that Roman has won, he's won with help, right? Recently, especially. And so what I think is going to happen, this is what I'm calling. The Rock is going to be at Roman's side in the match. Okay. Come down to the ring. Don't worry. We don't need anybody else. Again, this is just a theory. He says, okay, well, then something happens. Solo comes out, whatever, and The Rock turns babyface and says, no, you got to win this normal, win it right, or lose it right, whatever. And The Rock becomes a semi-enforcer for Cody, and that sets up WrestleMania 41 with The Rock and Roman Reigns in a match. What do you think?
A very good possibility of something like that. I can't quite figure, and I guess that's a good thing. I can't quite figure out, did they completely change what they were going to do?
Yes.
After Rock got booed a little bit? Yes,
I think so.
You think so? Okay.
I do. I think it's a total pivot move. You can even see how kind of semi-loose and unplanned it seems. The Rock coming out there. I think if the fans would have stayed with it at that SmackDown where Cody says, here, I got somebody, I'm not going to wrestle you at WrestleMania. That is the sole reason I think this was a pivot move, because Cody had already said, not at WrestleMania. I'm going to do something else. And he's going to chase you, but not at WrestleMania. So then The Rock comes out and Cody basically says, you take him, and then they go, we want Cody, and they boo The Rock out of the building, basically. Mm-hmm. Rocky sucks. We want Cody. La-di-da. Go on. And then I think they've pivoted. I think now The Rock is going to say, well, okay, I'm going to turn heel, and then we'll do something. I don't know. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways it could go, but I just know I think that it's a pivot.
And I think fans got to look at it another way too. Like, I don't know what their plans were 5 months ago, or right, whatever it was when. Well, I guess after Survivor Series, let's say CM Punk has arrived, everything like that. But during that time, you had Seth Rollins get hurt, CM Punk get hurt. The Rock, I guess. When did he decide to come back? We don't know, but right. I mean, it was sometime after that. So then you have the potential for all this, and then you got, like, if you list these people, Seth, CM Punk, Rock, Cody, Roman, that's 5 guys. 5 months ago, 4 of these guys were pretty solid asks for WrestleMania. Now, 3 of the 5 are, and 2 of the ones that were before are not. So
right,
it's kind of some Steiner math on you there a little bit.
Yeah, well, Punk getting hurt definitely played into it. That kind of thing.
I think Punk versus Rollins was happening at WrestleMania if Punk doesn't get hurt and Rollins doesn't get hurt. I mean, who knows if Rollins can even go right now? I mean,
right.
I read something today that Damian Priest did an interview and said that he can't cash in right now because Rollins is not cleared, medically cleared. So that's interesting.
Very.
I don't know. I hope they can turn this good. I do think Rock will cost Roman in some way.
Yeah.
Now, when will we know about it? I don't know. Will it be during the match or before that? Something? Will there be some kind of stipulation? Will Rock be the guest referee? I don't know. Another interesting tidbit. I did notice that the Samoan werewolf Jacob Fatu is now a free agent,
and his name was on that list.
The
Titantron. Yeah.
So I mean, like, could he be coming in and helping somebody out, interfere in some way? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways it could be set up. I hope they do it right. I'll tell you this though: if Cody doesn't win it at Mania, I don't understand the booking.
Yeah.
Because you can't have him win 2 Royal Rumbles and lose 2, especially if it's interfered with loss at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That would be 2 times he's won the Rumble to mean nothing at WrestleMania.
Yeah. It's true. We'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah. But hey,
I don't have all the answers, so who knows?
Right. Who has the answers? We don't know. I don't even know if they do yet, So I really think Punk getting hurt and the crowd crapping all over the whole Rocky deal really changed a lot of things for him. And we'll just have to see. That's the fun part of it, right? Is waiting and seeing.
And you mentioned Triple H. Can he even go? I mean, because he's got like a pacemaker or something, doesn't he? I don't know. I mean,
Maybe in a tag match. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. We got a good one today, though. I know that.
Oh, a great one. Looking forward to it.
The listeners don't have to wait for the response to this. We do have a great episode today with Iron Cross. Longtime Russell County man, He's, that means a lot to us. And this has been one that's been on our list since the start. I remember you bringing him up, and it was like, yeah, we've got to get him. And then did my due diligence and found him on Facebook, and now we've got him. So I say, let's go ahead and get him on. What do you say?
Get it started, brother. I'm good. I'm ready.
All right. We'll be right back after these messages with Iron Cross on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWA and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
All right, we are back with more from Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. And Jared, this is a guy that's literally been on our list from the start of this podcast, and it was just working up the time to get with him and figure out when we could get him on the show. But I remember early on, you were like, what about Iron Cross? And we were like, I was like, yeah, we got to talk to Iron Cross. And, so let's not spoil it too much more. Yeah. Mike, Iron Cross, thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Hey, it's great to be here. I thank you guys for having me. It's good to talk some Southwest Virginia boys. So
that's right. Go. That's right. Southwest Virginia for life.
Hey, Mike, so, I always say, like, when you say Southwest Virginia, a lot of people hear West Virginia in that. So I always had like a mechanism when I was in college or whatever. I would be like, I'm from the southwestern part of Virginia. So
right. Yeah, we're not hillbillies, we're mountaineers.
There you go.
I'd be out on the road and they'd say, where are you from? And I'd say, I knew not to say Castlewood. I'd say St. Paul. And they said, well, how's the weather up in Minnesota this time of year? I said, I have no idea. So I finally say Bristol and work my way back from there.
Yeah, there you go. Bristol's always a key one. Every once in a while you can say Abingdon to somebody and they're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but mostly it's Bristol because of the race and it's just the closest city, So, yeah.
Right.
It's a great area to be from, though, isn't it?
It is. Let's say you're away from everything, but not much bothers you around here. So it's
not much. Yeah, as long as
we get the Four Seasons too.
Yeah, that's a good point because I don't get that down here in North Carolina. I miss that. So we get 4 seasons in a week.
Yeah, but too, back when I was a kid, wanted to be a wrestler. Everybody would say, "How are you going to get into wrestling?" There's nowhere around here. There's nobody. That you're going to have to go and get out of this area. So that was a drawback when I first started getting in wrestling.
Yeah.
Who's in the area to train.
Right.
But anyway, I'll let you guys ask the questions to get into
Yeah. Well, we're going to get right in just a second. But the very first question we always start off with is coming from the Plastic Sheik, my brother. Jared, take it over, brother.
Yeah. So, Mike, this will just let everybody know kind of who influenced you to want to get into wrestling or who you've liked to watch over the years or who's always been just who you've been a big fan of. If you had like a top 4, top 5, they call it, people want to call it a Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling, who would that be for you?
Well, for me, growing up here in Virginia, been in the Mid-Atlantic Territory and the Southeastern Territory, so that's about all we had back in the 70s growing up. So the very first man on my list would have to be Chief Wahoo McDaniel.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love it.
As a kid, he was my favorite. Just being an Indian, the headdresses, that type of stuff. And I can tell you a little story here in a minute. That's one of my influences that got me hooked on wrestling. But somebody else, Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and Jerry the King Lawler, these guys really influenced me growing up. And I thank God as I got older, I got to meet them all and wrestle with them and travel with them. So it's just a dream come true. But that'd probably be my Mount Rushmore right there.
That's a great one.
Right. And, a lot of other ones. I had a lot of other ones. But, I ate, slept, and drank wrestling, from the time I was 12 years old. Really all I thought about.
Yeah.
That was a big influence. And another guy, Ronnie Garvin, that I got to wrestle with later on and train with a little bit and have become good friends with. He was a big influence, too.
That's awesome. Ronnie's great.
It's a great list, man.
And he's tough too.
I bet. He seems tough outside of the ring. I can't imagine in.
Yeah. He would definitely, and he'd have me tied up in knots. But I was looking. I was learning. I was seeing where his hand was. I was seeing where his foot was. Nobody wanted to wrestle me a month after I wrestled Garvin because I'd do to them what he did to me.
You're sugaring everybody, Garvin stomping everybody. Yeah, I remember he would do that to those poor guys like the Mulkeys or guys like that, those guys on TV, and I'm just like, leave him alone, man. You're killing that guy.
I wrestled in an independent show one time, and I think this was up in like Louisa, Kentucky, and the guy ran the show, and this was like the third day of the tour, and I come in, and he pulled me to the side. He said, Garvin's been stretching everybody, not giving anybody anything.
Yeah.
He said, I will double your pay tonight if you'll just give him a match. I thought, hey, sounds good to me. And this is the thing here, and this is probably, I want to say probably early 90s. By that time, I didn't have the real long blonde hair anymore. I had the short spiked hair, sort of looked like Garvin,
Yeah.
So I get to the show, and I get out of the car, and the fans are running up to me saying, Ronnie Garvin. and Garvin's pulling in about that time, and he sort of let his hair sort of grow out a little bit, and it's dark, and, it's, pepper gray a little bit, and he's not got the blonde spike anymore.
Right.
And I said, no, that's Ronnie Garvin right there getting out of the car. No, hey, you're Ronnie Garvin. Ronnie's hearing all this. I'm thinking, oh, great. I got to wrestle him tonight. That was one of the toughest matches I ever had in my life. When the bell rang, first thing I done, I knew he was going to chop me and eat me up, so I just backed him in the corner. I reared back and I hit him with 4 or 5 open hand chops as hard as I could hit him.
Yeah.
His eyes got big as quarters. He grabbed me around the throat and threw me down and started beating me up and tying me in knots. But that's something you never forget,
No, it's not. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that.
You'd wrestle him one night that he would beat you half to death and stretch you. The next night you're back there in the back in the locker room getting ready to wrestle him again. You're psyching yourself up like an MMA fight,
Yeah.
Even though it's a full wrestling, you're thinking, I'm going to go up there and fight for my life. You lock up with him and he's easy as pie, Then the next time you wrestle, you think he's going to be that Garvin again, and he beats you up again. So, you never know what you're going to get.
Never know what you're going to get. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Man, God bless Ronnie Garvin. Wow, that's awesome. Well, so we, Jared and I obviously know the story here, but we want you to tell our people here. So tell us about your younger days. Where were you born? Where did you go to high school? Did you play any sports? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I was born up in Abingdon, Virginia. And, as far as sports and stuff, I did play some 8th grade football and the wrestling team for a little while, but during that time, you got to remember, man, we're into pro wrestling big time.
Oh yeah.
When the wrestling coach would come in, we're in there body slamming each other, and he's getting all over us saying you can't do that junk. You don't want none of that junk in here and that stuff. So we just sort of had a riff with the wrestling coach and ended up quitting the wrestling team. Being stubborn, which I regretted later on. I always wanted to go back. It's one of those deals where I ain't giving in.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
But we were into the wrestling stuff again. But I went to Castlewood High School.
Yeah.
So graduated there and Southwest College and Prince Valley College. So I didn't. Everything I majored in didn't matter to me because in school they brought in the guidance counselors to talk to me because I would always be sitting there drawing pictures of myself standing on top of the world with the world heavyweight title around my waist.
Yeah.
What are you going to be when you get out of school? I'll be like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. They'll be like, what?
Yeah.
And then the special guidance counselors talk to me to try to snap me back to reality. But I was always just into the wrestling. I knew that's what I wanted to do. It's what I wanted to be. And that's what I was telling you earlier. Everybody's like, well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Castlewood, Virginia. How are you going to get into wrestling? I said, I have no idea. They looked at me, and I weighed, 130 pounds at that time. Nowadays it wouldn't be no problem, but back then they wanted you to be 200 pounds even to be a pro wrestler.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But, how you going to be a wrestler? You're a little skinny kid,
At that time, you would have been on AEW.
yeah, that's right. I've been the cruiserweight champion, man.
Exactly. Almost the heavyweight these days.
Grandpa's garden and wrestle them, so I look like one of them tomato sticks.
Now, when was that you started liking wrestling? Do you remember when?
I remember exactly when. What I mentioned earlier about Wahoo McDaniel. I always wanted to be. I was a motocross racer.
Okay.
Kid. Raced motorcycles, and we'd go to the races at Coburn Racetrack every Saturday night.
Yeah.
My dream was actually to be a race car driver,
Okay.
That's all I thought about. So we come back one Saturday from the Coburn races, and, I just saw all the race car drivers and stuff, and I was in there, and I remember it's in my mom and dad's, I was in the kitchen floor, and I had my little race cars out. I was probably 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
And they're playing with those race cars, and all of a sudden my dad hollers, "Come here a minute. I want to show you something." They're watching Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling.
Awesome.
And it's Wahoo McDaniel. I run in there, and Wahoo's doing a war dance.
Yes.
He's doing that war dance. He's wrestling a guy named George Two-Ton Harris. I remember it all.
Yeah.
And Wahoo would chop him in the head. And, my dad and him, he was just sort of making fun of it. He was laughing at it because the guy's eyes was rolling around his, the way he was selling the chops and stuff. Dad was just cracking up. He was wanting me to see that part of it. He thought it was funny.
Right.
When I went in, I saw Wahoo doing the war dance, throwing those chops, and I saw the ring. I never thought about racing again.
Wow.
I was hooked right then.
Yeah.
Get out the TV guide. I don't know if you guys even remember a TV guide, but
yes, sir. Yeah.
Find out when wrestling's coming on.
When's it going to be on? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And you had to be home. You never went nowhere on Saturdays.
Right.
Exactly. The daytime we leave the house every Saturday. I was a house cat. I never left the house because I watch wrestling. Atlantic comes on at 1. South Station comes on at 2. Then at night, WLOS and Channel 15. You could take the rabbit ears and the little dial and tune in to Worldwide Wrestling. Out of the act. So I remember those days vividly.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you're from Russell County. We're from Russell County, and when it comes to wrestling, you are, I would say, our second. Number 2. Now you probably did as much or more than this gentleman, but the number 1 wrestler from Russell County, as far as timeline goes, would be Hoot Gibson, right? Did you know Hoot? Yeah. When did you meet Hoot?
I did. Yeah. I've wrestled with Hoot many times. Been him with tag team champions.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's a good friend of mine, and Hoot was just all around great person.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got into business, probably going back. I started in 84, probably 85 or 86. I remember down in Johnson City at the Recreation Center, me and him, were a tag team down there. And, and everybody knew him. I knew him as a kid. I remember seeing him wrestle, as a kid, on some local shows and stuff right here with ICW and promotions like that. But, he's a great guy. I've known him for years. Been out of touch with him for a little while, but, me and him and, when Ronnie Garvin being down, him and Garvin's good friends. So we talk about him or try to get together and that type of thing. But
Yeah, I talked to Ronnie last year, George Weingroff. I've got another podcast with a wrestler, Wolfie D, and he knows George Weingroff very well, and we interviewed George, and George called us maybe a day or two later, and he was like, "Hey, Jimmy, do you want to get Ronnie Garvin on the show?" And we're like, "Yes, we do." I guarantee it. And we talked to Ronnie, and he was telling us that Hoot unfortunately has Parkinson's now and is in assisted living, unfortunately. Yeah.
I hate to hear that. Yeah.
I know. I hate to hear it too. But yeah, who to me, that, and I only mean number 2 because you're younger than him. You know what I mean? But when it comes to it, the two stars from Russell County were you and him. Now, tell me, were there other wrestlers that you knew about that came from the county?
Not anybody that's really, I've trained several guys,
Right.
We're mainly just on the independent scene and that type of thing. But I was real blessed to get the few breaks that I had in wrestling, and missed a lot of them too. But at least and we'll talk about this probably a little later. But
sure.
As a kid, I collected wrestling magazines. That's all.
Oh yeah, that was the stuff.
We had a place in St. Paul called Molinari's right across from when the old Piggly Wiggly was there.
Okay.
My friends would make fun of me because I'd go to the grocery store with my mother. Dad, and they said, we're playing baseball up here in the field. What do you want? I got to go to the grocery store. What are you going to the grocery store for? I go across the road to the mall in there, and they had about 8 or 9, 10 wrestling magazines.
Yes.
And, my parents give me $1. There's $1 back in. I go over and I'd be going through all those magazines trying to figure out which one to buy.
Right.
And that was a big deal for me. And the point I was going to make, years later, when I got to be in all those magazines and stuff, like, the Inside Wrestling and the Wrestling, Illustrated, all that magazines, that was a bigger deal for me than just about anything, right
no kidding.
Station in front of 50 million people,
right.
That was a thrill, but being in the magazines was a bigger thrill for me.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. I can't imagine how that felt. I'm sure that was huge because coming from that, you probably weren't too far off from that little boy who bought those magazines, and then you're like, holy cow, I'm marking out for myself right now and it's okay. So
right. And even the pictures were great, but what thrilled me even more was being ranked.
Yeah, that's it.
I got a magazine from 1991 when we were doing the $1 Billion Babies gimmick. I don't know if you know about that or not. We had
yeah.
We were ranked, in the Inside Wrestling. We was ranked number 11 in the world, and the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, was ranked number 12.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
So that was a big thrill for us. Just dang it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, let's get to that in just a second. But Jared, go ahead, ask the next question.
All right, Mike. So tell us a little bit. You talked about the struggles of small area like this and trying to find somebody to train you and everything like that. Talk to us about your start in wrestling and training and your first match and maybe just your first little bit in wrestling. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, this is a great story, man. I was actually at my grandmother's, and she was on the phone talking to somebody in the family. You know how grandmothers do. They're on there talking about everything. And
right.
She gets off the phone and she goes, yeah. She said, you got a third cousin. A cousin was a professional wrestler. Man, you talk about my eyes lighting up, my ears perking up. I went blank and I just zeroed in on her. And she's going on talking about other people in the family. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, hold it.
Go back.
I said, you mean I got somebody in the family that was a professional wrestler? Yeah. His name is Big Ed Wolf was his name. And,
okay.
His quick story about him in 1975, he got through it. He was Ron Wright's tag team partner, and he got through the ring in Johnson City in those old wooden type folding chairs.
Yes,
He was a big guy. He was a powerlifting champion. He weighed about 275. He hit one of those chairs, and it actually broke, and it stuck through his leg, his calf there. And they took him down there at Johnson City, and it set up gangrene. Well, anyway, long story short, they started amputating his leg at the knee, and finally all the way up to the hip.
That's horrible.
But anyway, that was him. She's talking about him. I said, where does he live? He lives down in Bluntful, Tennessee. Man, can we call him? I hadn't talked to him in a long time. I said, let's call him up. So I got my grandmother to call him up on the phone. I got to get on there and talk to him for a minute. And he goes, after he talked to me just a minute, he said, yeah, I live down here in Bluntful. He said, I got a gym down here in my house, powerlifting. He said, anytime you want to come down, come on down. I said, I'll be down there in a couple hours.
That's amazing.
So I jump in the car and I drive straight, to Bluntful, straight to his house. And, Of course, at that time, I'm already starting to, I'm a teenager. I'm already lifting. I've done turned my mom's dining room into a weight room. I'm already lifting weights a little bit. And I probably weighed 180, something like that.
Yeah.
We talked about my farmer's daughter, my wife Misty. When we first met, she weighed 135 and I weighed 130. So this time, they'd make fun of me. I'd go, I was working at a gym. I didn't own a gym at this time, but I'd go in and get on the scale with my leather jacket on and with my lycra boots and 185. I was trying to gain weight. But anyway, I went in, go to his house, come in. Of course, he's reluctant about getting me in wrestling because of his injury, that type of thing.
Of course, yeah.
Family. But, man, he could see that's all I wanted to talk about, and he's showing me pictures and telling me about wrestling. I mean, I was in wrestling heaven down there.
Yeah, no kidding.
I said I want to be a wrestler. He said, you're too little.
Go eat.
He said, you got to be 200 pounds. Well, I did.
Yeah.
Then I went home and started eating half-done steaks, making my own protein shakes, with vanilla extract, milk, raw eggs. I was running Rocky Town stuff.
Yeah.
Eating peanut butter and honey, peanut butter and syrup sandwiches, Anyway,
I love it.
Then a couple weeks later, I gained 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So I kept going back. About the second or third time I come back, he goes, "Well, I see you're serious about this." He said, "I'm gonna call one of my buddies, see what they can do."
Yeah.
We called up Ron Wright. He's talking to him on the phone.
King of Kingsport.
Right. And Ron's like, well, I really don't train anybody anymore, but I know a guy that lives there at Bloomingdale in Kingsport, Tony Peters.
Okay. Yeah.
Big Tony Peters. He said he'll train. So that's how I got started. So he put me in contact with him. I called him up, and he's like, I forget what it was. Maybe back then, maybe it's $500 to train. You pay up front. Early '80s, $500. It's like, to a teenager, like what?
Yeah.
Money. But anyway,
might as well be $1 million, right? I mean,
right. The man I was determined, and he said he gave me a date to come down there, and I come down there thinking I'm gonna get in the ring and train, and I go down there. He said, meet me at the Lowmark grocery store in Kingsport on Bloomingdale. So I get there, and there's two other guys in the parking lot, that he'd contacted too, because if he's going to do something, he's going to have more than one guy. So he had these other two guys that wanted to train also. We gave him the money up front. He told me this years later, he said, that's all I wanted. He said one session was all I was planning. He said, I'm going to beat you guys to death and have you never come back.
Right.
So we go down there the bottom of this grocery store, Lowmark grocery store. I see nothing but just a little high school wrestling mat.
Yeah.
Here's Big Tony. I don't know if you know him or not, but man, he's about 6'3", 320 pounds, from a Vietnam vet. He said, at that time, he said he was going through those withdrawal symptoms and stuff. He just wanted to hurt somebody.
Right.
He told me this himself years later. But anyway, he grabbed us, threw us around. I think one guy broke his tailbone first night, So next week when we come back, it's me and one guy. But man, I'm loving it. I can't go to bed when I get home. You have to sit up on the edge of my bed because I'm getting thrown around on that concrete floor with a mat. And,
right.
He's being real stiff with us, trying to run us away. And, after another time, I'm by myself.
Only guy left. Yeah.
And sometimes I would come and sit there, and Tony didn't show. I knew where he lived. I'd go to his house, take on his door. I can still remember this. I'd take on his door. He's sitting at the kitchen table eating a cantaloupe. He just looked up at me, And me and his son's about the same age. So I'd come on in. I'm eating right now. Like, what are you doing here? I come in and the son. We're sitting there. We're watching MTV, and he showed me picture albums of, his dad, Tony wrestling Andre the Giant, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then Tony finally said, "Hey, I know a guy here named Bud Adams who wrestles as a sport, but he's got a ring. Take you down to that ring." When I got to the ring, wrestling rings are, they're hard, but they got a spring and they got a, little mat on them. Felt like a feather bed to me after being on that grocery store.
Right. Yeah.
So I was bumping all over the place. And as I was doing it, I've been training about probably just a couple of weeks at this time. And you interrupt me anytime you want to, but get to my first match, Bud walks in there, and I'm training one day. I get done training. Bud says, "You want to go to North Carolina with us this weekend for a 2-day shot?" I said, "I just started training." I said, "I don't know anything." He said, "You'll be fine. All we need is a body."
Right.
All you got to do is listen. He said, "You took good bumps." He said, "All you got to do is listen." I said, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah.
I show up at Kingsport, and we go to a place called Mocksville, North Carolina. When I tell people Mocksville, they think I'm saying Knoxville.
Right, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
No, I said, this is Mocksville, North Carolina, right outside Winston-Salem.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we went there for my first match. I get in a car load of wrestlers. I don't know nobody from Adam. I'm driving down there, and I get there. And before I get there, Tony sells me a pair of wrestling tights and a pair of boots for $35. About 2 sizes too big. But I got gear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here I go. North Carolina, you don't have to have a wrestling license.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Just like Tennessee. Yep.
Right. So we get down there, and a guy named Johnny Hunter is running the show. UWA Wrestling. I think it's Eastern Wrestling Association. And that's when I first met Gene Gordon. I don't know if you ever heard of Gene Gordon, the photographer.
Yeah.
For the wrestling magazines back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon Wrestling Gems or something like that, he'd call it. But anyway, he took my first publicity pictures. Getting back to the store, I get there, and I come in, and as I'm walking in, Bud tells me you've been wrestling about a year. So, the classic. And I tell you, we've been wrestling. Well, I've been wrestling about a year, and I know he looked at me like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
So,
right.
superstar number 2 outfit. Didn't even get to wear my $35 outfit and boots that I bought. He told me another outfit. He said, here, put this on. You're the superstar number 2 tonight. Okay. I put that on, and my first opponent was a guy named Jim Gallagher, who recently, I just seen on the internet there probably less than a month ago that he recently passed away. But Jim Gallagher, he was my first opponent. And I went out there and I was just listening. I took great bumps and got back to the locker room, and Bud said, now tell him. I said, yeah, this is my very first match. Johnny said he didn't believe it. So that made me feel good that he didn't believe it was my first match. But after that, I was up and going, every weekend, wrestling for Johnny Hunter.
That's all.
I got my first publicity pictures. And
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, you weren't in it too long before you actually ended up in 1990. I think you worked some stuff for WCW. Am I correct?
Actually, before that, in 89.
89.
WWF first.
Tell us about that.
Which was sort of ironic, and if you can actually, if you ever look up SummerSlam '89, you can see me on the credits. When it comes on, how they show wrestling action. It's Bret the Hitman Hart giving me the Heartbreaker. Boom. If you ever notice that, get that, you can pull it up on your phone, look at it anytime.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was ironic that we went to WWF first, so I only seen that in the magazine. I was NWA and WCW is where we wanted to be, so that's what we grew up on. But I'd wrestled for a guy named, I trained some with Nelson Rules and Gene Anderson, down in.
Oh, wow.
Good stuff.
That's my home. Yeah. That's where I live now. It's Mooresville.
Yeah.
The Western store, right? Did you do it in the building behind the Western store?
Yeah. They had a little building back there with the ring in it.
Yeah.
And you had to go down there and train. I'll tell you a funny story there. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but Gene Anderson's in the ring. I'm going down there to train. I've been wrestling a little while when I went down there, but with my buddies, George South and a few, I said, come down here and meet some more guys and train some with us. So I drove down there and trained, and it was about, I'd say there's 15 or 20 of us in there training. And
was Todd Champion, Tommy Angel, David Isley in there?
I'm sure most of them was in there. So
we've talked to all of them, right? It's crazy. Yeah. You're just like another guy that's wrestled with Nelson. It's awesome.
Yeah. And he was, we was there, and Gene Anderson's in the ring, and I remember Gene. He's got on a pair of Bermuda shorts and a pair of flip flops in the ring, and he's got a guy there, and he's trying to do a hammerlock.
Yeah.
You're Gene Anderson, world tag team champion. I'm already starstruck, and I say, Gene, he's turning the wrong way. Instead of going behind the guy, he's turning the other way.
Yeah.
He talks like this, you can't hardly understand what he's saying. And I'm thinking in my mind, he needs to go the other way. And guess what? I said, I think you need to go the other way.
Oh,
so as I was saying it, I realized what I'd done.
Oh, good.
Everybody's looking at me. Everything stops. Gene goes, "Won't you come in here? Show me how to do it." And he said, "I know what." He said, "Won't everybody come in here?" And man, they gave us I know it was 10, 15 backdrops in a row. Passes up and pick you up and shoot you. Needless to say, I wasn't the most popular guy in training. You would hit the mat, and they'd be hollering, "Nelson, you're getting up like a girl." And then they're jumping all over you, beat us half to death. And then on, I learned a valuable lesson that my trainer told me. Go over and sit in the corner. He said, "Keep your ears open and keep your mouth shut." And I realized what I'd done wrong that day. But anyway, Nelson, we'd wrestle for him some later on in his Atlantic Coast wrestling he had down there in the Carolinas. And actually, we was doing the $1 Billion Babies at the time, but we'd come in for him. I'd wear a mask. Instead of the Iron Cross, I was Iron Man.
Yeah.
And my partner put on the mask too, and, we'd ride some King Shamrock and, Robert Gibson, Mitch Snow, guys like that,
That's awesome.
But anyway, how we got to the WWF, we'd been doing some shows for him. Well, I was sitting at home, I remember, I know vividly, it's one Sunday night, and my phone rang, and it was Nelson. He said, "Do you want to go wrestle for Vince McMahon in WWF?" Yeah. I've been for 4 years. I think this is 89. For 4 years, I've been, 4 or 5 years, I've been wrestling in barns and armories and schools. And last week, we wrestled in Kentucky out dressed in a horse stall and wrestled out in the field, And I was thinking, yeah, I'll take the booking. So he said, be at the Charlotte airport, next Friday or whatever it was, and that's how we got started. We went down there. And, I guess that's why I didn't get any royalties from those videos. been on the WWE network and in their videos and stuff, because I remember when we got on the plane, they gave us about 20 papers to sign, release forms. I guess, we didn't read anything. We just signed everything. So
Right. Yeah, that's awesome though. I mean, that. Did you think at that point, like, okay, I've made it. This is it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the Titanic movie, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When we got there to catering, the first person I think we went to Worcester, Massachusetts. Flew from Charlotte. And I remember we stopped in Baltimore and picked up. I remember Slick and Barry Windham, Widowmaker at that time. They got on the plane and we got to Worcester, and they took us to the centrum there in Worcester, big, huge building. And Vince McMahon's first guy comes up to us, shakes our hand. How was your flight? How's everything? It was ironic that he's talking to us. Who are we?
Yeah.
If you need anything, let us know. Make yourself at home. So I'm sitting at catering. I look down through there, and there's Dusty Rhodes, Animal Steel, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. Just in '89, that's actually when it was probably at its biggest.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Everybody was there. I'm looking down this long table, and it's like the Titanic. Last night I was sleeping under a bridge, and here I am tonight with all you fine people. And like, is this a dream? How'd I get here?
Right.
You got 10, 15, 20,000 people in the arena. At the gorilla. I was at the gorilla position when the gorilla was there. Gorilla Monsoon.
The reason it's called gorilla.
You got to know. You're looking at Vince McMahon with a headset on. Gorilla Monsoon. Then they get ready to send you through the curtain.
That's amazing.
Nerve-wracking times.
Did you find yourself like any kind of like an awestruck or anything like that around some of those people at first, and did you kind of have to snap out of it real quick?
Yeah, right. And we were just, we're just big fans.
Yeah.
And we were back there, man. Back up there, we had the little 110 cameras, but you couldn't take pictures of anybody in WWF because they didn't allow pictures.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We was running around. I mean, man, with Dusty Rhodes, we find his locker room, going there where he's at. When he's not there, we're putting his boots on. We're doing all just what a fan would do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If somebody, there's Greg Valentine's robe, we'll put that on. Take pictures of each other. Stuff. Oh, here they come. Down. I remember I even jumped the rail earlier in the day, in catering where everybody's in there eating. I knew they're going to have some WWF gimmicks, hats and T-shirts and all that stuff. So I'll go out of the dressing room and walk through the arena, go up there where they're setting up to sell everything. And I'll never look at one of the vendors up there like, and she wanted the wrestlers? I'm like, yeah, what are you doing up here? Like, want to get the T-shirt, the hat.
Yeah.
Doing all the stuff. The good thing about it is back when they had the ice cream bars, at the end of the night.
Oh, yes.
They come in the locker room and gave us, these boxes of those ice cream bars in there, and everybody, you'd have a brain freeze. You're eating all you can eat of them. Then, after catering, they'd open up a little snack bar, with chips and peanuts and fruit, all kinds of different drinks and stuff, and we'd fill our bags. I mean, we'd have to drag our bags out there and lift because we're going to be wrestling in a barn next week in Kentucky.
Right.
We're trying to make it.
Y'all reckon this ice cream's going to melt?
Eat all we can eat. We were just big fans. In WCW, it's a little bit different. I know we would. Remember Jim Cornette? He was a big fan too. I remember Dusty Rhodes. Well, I first met Dusty in WWF, and there's another quick story. Y'all just shut me up when you need me.
You're good. You're good.
But as a kid, I was in the Dusty Rhodes fan club. You send it in out of the magazine, and you send in $1, and they send you like a little card that Dusty signed saying you're in the Dusty Rhodes Army. I carried that thing in my billfold, and if I hadn't, I'd probably still carry it today if I could find it. But I told Dusty, I said, "Hey Dusty, you remember the Dusty Rhodes fan club?" He goes, "You didn't." I said, "I did." He said, "Thank you for the $1, brother." But anyway, we got to WCW. He was sort of working behind the scenes there, with Bill Watts, working for him.
Okay.
And Dusty, we pulled out the camera. We had to get shot with Dusty Rhodes. So we're taking a picture. I got my buddy taking a picture of me with Dusty Rhodes. And here comes Ole Anderson. "Put them cameras up, you bunch of marks." He's chewing us out. And of course,
I'm surprised it wasn't that colorful.
It was real colorful. Dusty had a few choice words to him. He said, "Get the cameras back out, boys. Let's take some pictures." You know, the Cornette and all of them be taking pictures with everybody. You know, because everybody was just, like I say, big fans.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Glad to be there.
And it's cool because I've seen a ton of pictures on your Facebook page, like Kevin Von Erich, all kinds of people, you know. And a lot of times that was frowned on, right? That was definitely not something that they did back then, took pictures. And I think it's cool that you did, you know.
Yeah, but most of us, like I said, Jim Cornette was, of course, they used to be a photographer. He'd take pictures with everybody. So
right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Right, but I tried to collect what I could, posters, and take pictures when we could. And like I say, back in the 110 cameras, you know, it's one of when you snap it, then you have to roll it,
right,
get to your next picture, and you have to go get it developed, and when you get it back, half the roll didn't develop, you know.
Right, exactly.
Pictures with Dusty and Harley Race and all the great stars were black, you know. They didn't turn out. You standing by the water fountain, that's perfect, you know.
Right, exactly. I mean, you know, we got these phones now, and it's so crazy that we, you know, ever had to struggle with taking pictures. We would have never imagined that we had these phones, these full computers in our pocket, you know. It's crazy. Yeah. So,
you know, I had a picture hanging in my gym for years of me and Ric Flair, and you never guess who the guy was that actually took the picture of being Flair. It was The Undertaker.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
We started going to Memphis and stuff together, you know, and we were friends. And me and him and Mick Foley. It'd be like if us, you know, if we was hanging out together for a while, then we all go to WCW or WWF.
Yeah.
You get with the guys that you know and hang out with them.
Right.
So when I was in WCW, you know, I'd get with me and you know, Mick Foley and Mark Callis and all them, Undertaker. You know, I'd get with those guys because we knew each other. But he took the picture. You know, at the time, I never got one with him because I never dreamed he'd ever become the Undertaker.
Of course, right? I mean, this giant guy. You know? Yeah, exactly.
He was just my buddy. You know, he said, "Yeah, I'll take pictures with Flair." So he actually wrote it on the picture, so I went to get it. Tell everybody, I said, "You never guess who took this picture? It was Undertaker."
That is amazing. Yeah.
So talk to us, you mentioned it a little bit there earlier. Talk to us about the $1 billion babies with GQ Stratus. Yeah,
actually, he was a friend of mine, you know, from college that I actually trained him, you know, to become a wrestler. And, when we come to $1 billion babies, you know, we decided, you know, his dad was also a minister and his mom made choir robes. So that's actually the pattern we got from our first $1 billion baby robes. She made them for us, and we got the boa feathers and put on them. You know, we had the blonde hair, the pink boas, the pink boots. And I'll tell you a story where we needed a name at the time. We had the look. You know, we had the blonde hair. We was getting a lot of bookings because, you know, back then, you know, if you had a tag team that looked alike, you know, it was cool on your shows and post. Instead of just throwing two guys together, and we dressed alike, looked alike, had the blonde hair, good friends. So anyway, we're driving down the road after a show, and we don't have a name. You know, it's Mike Samson and GQ Stratus. We need a tag team name, we're thinking.
Yeah.
So we're driving down the road, and it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, you're wore out, you're tired, and we're listening to the radio. All of a sudden, you know, we've been trying to throw names around. Nothing's real catchy. About that time, the DJ comes on and says, "Coming up at the top of the hour, Alice Cooper, $1 billion babies."
Yes.
Said,
yeah.
We both turned and looked at each other right then and said, "That's her name, $1 billion babies."
Nice.
And we decided after that we needed to be from somewhere. So we said, you know, we're going to be from the lap of luxury, $1 billion babies.
Yeah.
You know, some cool stuff too. You know, we would, you know, on the Independence, that's when the Rock and Roll Express, you mentioned them already, they was on the Independence, you know, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, and, you know, promoters, they would always book us against the Rock and Roll Express because, you know, we were heels and we had the blonde hair and we had, you know, that sort of look, you know, we'll get for our tag team. So we wrestled them all over the country together. And actually, Ricky Morton's the one who got me my first full-time wrestling job.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Sometime too, you know, if you want to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely. You know, so the $1 billion babies, you got that going, and then you end up out in Memphis and USWA. Talk about that. How'd you get out there? All that.
Yeah, we was actually there was still the CWA the last year of it.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
And how it happened, I was wrestling back to the Rock and Roll Express again, and we're in I still remember where it was at. It's in a little town called Inez, Kentucky.
Inez, yep.
Yeah, we're wrestling Rick and Robert, and Ricky snap marries me over, puts me in a chin lock, and he says, "You guys want to do this full time?" because we was on the independents full time, but we wasn't, in the territory.
Yeah.
I said, yes, most definitely. He said, Dutch Mantel will give you a call in a couple of weeks. And we went on with the match, about 2 weeks to the day, my phone rings, it's Dutch Mantel. He gave us a starting date in Memphis. Actually, somebody already sent him a tape of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't to this day don't know who sent that in, but he said, yeah, I've seen you guys work to the tape, and Ricky said we need to get you guys down here. And I never will forget it because I couldn't understand what he was saying. He said, I need you to be in Memphis at the Admiral Benbow.
Admiral Benbow, yes, sir. There you go.
I thought the what? Yeah. Admiral Benbow. Got there in Memphis. That's BFTV. So off we went. And I remember we get there, and Dave Brown, the announcer, he's giving the weather. Get there, and get to the room. That's I tell awesome. You, when we got there, now this is a cool story here. We're still sort of, we're still green. First time being around all these. They're gonna put us over. Gonna put us. We got a big thing called Christmas Chaos coming up, and so we go in there, and they said, "No, boys, here's what I want you to do." The referee says, "Let's go." We had this move called. It's like I get on one side, my partner gets on the other side, and we do a double arm twist. We push the guy back and give him a double short clothesline. This day I ain't seen nobody else do it. I guess somebody's gonna steal it now, but
yeah.
And we named it the baby boom.
Yeah.
So that was our move. So they told us when the referee says, "Let's go," give them your move, and pin the guy. So we get in the ring, we're nervous. First time you're in Memphis live TV, and here we go. And the referee, he means let's go start the match, not let's go home.
Right.
The bell rings. He says, "Let's go." And man, we hit the guy. Boom, hit him with our double baby boom. 1, 2, 3. I hear Dave Brown said the quickest win ever on Memphis wrestling TV. And of course that went over real good with Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we come back in the dressing room, boy, they're cussing, they're throwing stuff. What are you doing? I hear Lawler saying this will never make Louisville, Nashville, and Evansville, because it was on a week delay there. It was live in Memphis.
Right.
Keep your stuff on. You want to go back out? Of course, we went back out and wrestled King Cobra and Bill Dundee for the TV main event. They gave us a pretty good whipping out there on TV, and we just went to like a double disqualification on TV because they couldn't beat us. Well, they was going to push us, but they let us know they didn't like it.
Right.
So that's one of the few things that people don't know, that we had the quickest win. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Talk to us. I see you're talking about working rock and roll and everything like that. I see you worked another all-time tag team with GQ. You worked the Steiners. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, we worked the Steiner Brothers several times. Actually, if you get the WCW magazine, I think it's 1992. There's a frame-by-frame shot in there of Scott giving me the Tilt-A-Whirl slam.
Oh, wow.
But every time we'd wrestle them, Scott would always want me. I could take his Tilt-A-Whirl slam and his Frankensteiner real good.
Okay.
So at the time, Scott would come up, and say, "Man, do you care to take my stuff?" I said, "No." I said, "Go ahead and give it to me." But I don't know if you've seen the matches of us wrestling or not. I think you see them on. I think they got some on YouTube.
YouTube, yes, sir. I've seen them. Yeah.
You see the one where he forearms me in the head and he knocks his own headgear off?
Yes.
Yeah. No, we'd do that night because it'd be like they didn't talk to you before the matches. The things were different. And we started out in the WWF. I mean, they treated you like gold up there.
Right, right.
They took care of you. They appreciated you being there, just that kind of thing. When you get to WCW, NWA, where we wanted to be, they was all trying to get to the WWF.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
and they would just hurt you. The Vader was there. You're back there, and Vader just hurt somebody. Steiners, they hurt GQ, my partner. They broke his ribs one night.
Man.
It's just, and my partner, Rick would say, when I get in, I'm gonna give you the Steiner line. You know what that is? Going to cut your head off. So
right.
My partner would always tag me in before Rick got in. So I take the forearm Steiner on, and I take the Tilt-A-Whirl slam, and then and then his move, what I call it, the name of it was the
Frankensteiner.
Yeah. Because that was the easiest move to take because you start a forward flip with that.
Forward flip, yeah.
Those guys they were disruptive, and actually, I would actually tell them. But sometimes, Scott clotheslined me one time with the short arm clothesline, and he didn't even call it, didn't know it was coming. And he just knocked me in the next week, and I took a horrible bump. And I told him in the back, I said, man, if you just buzz me on that, I could do a 360 for you. You know, I said, you caught me and you knocked me silly. And I was on my back, and I was thinking, was he going to do something else to me?
Yeah.
So he's not doing anything. So I roll over to get up, and he comes and drops the elbow in the back of my head, knocks me silly again. But, you know, just little things that you can make them look a lot better if, if they would buzz you on it instead of just knocking silly.
Right. Yeah.
In the WWF, I remember, we wrestled Demolition our first night in there, and
oh wow.
Also, and actually, we got in the back, and they was like, man, they went straight to Vince and said, bring these guys back. You know, they call us the Charlotte Boys. They bring these Charlotte Boys back. And because he gave me a body slam in the ring. He goes, man, that was great. He said, be careful, give you another one. I said, go ahead. He got up, you know. And that's why I tried to tell the guy, you let me know what's happening. You're going to look a whole lot better. And I thought that was the name of the game. You know, you know what you're here for. But
describing your look earlier, didn't the Beverly Brothers come in looking a lot like that a few years later?
We always said they stole their gimmick after we left.
Right.
Because, when we were up there, now Jay Strongbow, he loved us. You know, he was like our agent in WWF, and he'd always book us against the Hart Foundation, against the Rockers, and he'd always try to work us as a team. I think I had one match against Jimmy Snuka, you know, in the single up there, and we worked the Bushwhackers, and he'd always use us as a tag team. But right after we left, here come the Beverly Brothers, taking our stuff. That's why I wrestled as Mike Swarberry up there. Tried to use our real names. Didn't want to give away none of our gimmicks. So,
right. That's smart. Yeah.
So we didn't do that many jobs. I think I did like 6 TVs for WWF and like 6 for WCW. They called you after that a lot of times. But, after you got going, we didn't really need to do that anymore. But,
Right. Yeah. And then in 92, 92 is a busy year for you. Obviously, you're working in WCW, you're working all over, but then you also start working for a company called Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And it looks like, now for my research, the very first match you worked for them was actually in your hometown versus the Demon. Is that correct?
Another guy I trained called Nuke Steffi.
Okay.
Probably. I really can't remember exactly. I just remember Cornette calling me, and he said, because I met him in, WCW and NWA, and he really liked my work and stuff. He even told me, he said, I'd love to push you, do something on TV with you. He said, but you're in the area, and he said, you run shows, you got your own organization. So he said, I really can't push you, but I'd love to use you. You wanted to, I did a lot of house shots with him, and the TVs and stuff too. So I said, yeah, sure, because I had my gym open at that time, and and that is in the area, so it was extra money for me, to help feed my business. But right before that, I got to Smoky Mountain. Hey, this little story. When we left Memphis, because of course they was promising us everything.
Right.
We'd get our checks, and it'd be like, we owe you this much money. We'll pay you the next time. Of course, next time you get the check, we owe you this much money. We'll make it up to you. And finally, I just said, I'm quitting. Well, when I got back home, that's when my wife was pregnant with her daughter, Nikki, and I said, I'm opening up a business, just so we get off the road. So that's when I opened up Samson's Gym. I had my grand opening, in 1990. Well, at that time, that's when you talked about USWA a while ago. That's when the Jarrett was sort of merging with the buying out World Class.
Right.
Out there in Dallas. Started sending guys to Dallas. Well, I'm at my gym one day. The phone rings. It's Jerry Jarrett. He says, I need you to move. I want to bring you back as a single. What happened was Buddy Landell had quit, and we call it, he said, I need a blonde bumping heel. That's what he called it.
I love it.
He said, Buddy Landell quit. He said, you were here. He said, we liked your work. We want to bring you back as a single. He said, I want you to start. He gave me a date at the Sportatorium in Dallas, starting date. He said, I want you to be moved to Dallas by the end of next week. And it's back in it. Let's see what it was. Probably 1990. He said, I'll give you $500 a week. Starting out and see how everything goes. I said, I can't do it. I said, I just bought my grand opening is next week. I just bought a gym and got all my advertisement out. So I ended up not taking the booking because I couldn't. Wife's pregnant. I got the gym. I said, I can't just up and leave.
Right.
Well, there's a guy that took my spot. His name is Stunning Steve Austin.
Oh man.
So I always tell everybody, this is a true story. I always tell everybody, Buddy was the first choice, Mike Samson was the second choice, Steve Austin was the third choice.
Oh, wow.
If Steve Austin come on TV, I'd say, you're welcome. you know. You know, he's probably done it anyway, but you know, if somebody did that, my people said, yeah, you're welcome, Steve.
Do you ever look back and regret not doing that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Several times. You know, I've turned down Abdul the Butcher, you know, wanting to go to Japan. You know,
Puerto Rico, probably.
Yeah, just places like that. You know, back then, when you're on the road, you're going back and forth. You know, it ain't like it is now, like y'all said earlier. You know, you get home, there'd be a message, or your wife would say, Abdul the Butcher calling, want you to call him back. And, you know, when you call and you get a busy signal and you don't call him back, you know what I'm saying? Just that type of thing.
Little misconnections,
You know, like the Undertaker. A good friend of mine, you know, and Mick Foley, and, you know, Mick Foley had mentioned me in one of his books or something one time, or something. One of the guys at the gym, you know, was going crazy over it. You know, they sent him a text, you know, and they said, yeah, Mike Samson beat all babies. You know, but back then you didn't have anybody's, you know, you didn't call each other, you didn't do that, you didn't keep in contact, so you just see each other on the road. So
right.
It's so different than it is nowadays about keeping in touch with people.
Right. Yeah. Going into Smoky Mountain, obviously you worked your first match at Castlewood, but I mean, you worked guys like Tim Horner, you worked Rock and Roll Express with Robbie Eagle as your tag partner, Primetime Brian Lee, Killer Kyle. Now, there's a name that comes up here that I really want to know about because we've had Pat on the show. You worked Pat Rose, too, for the first time, it looks like. Tell me anything about working with Pat.
Yeah, I remember that match. That was the first time I got to wrestle in the Freedom Hall in Johnson City, which is a big deal.
That's awesome. Yes, sir, it is.
That's where you go to concerts. That was the building around here.
Yes, sir. Yeah. That was the Madison Square Garden, right? So,
finally, you know, get to work at Freedom Hall in Johnson City. You know, it sounds better than that we're going to be at the Armory in West Virginia. You know, I can
right, exactly.
Freedom Hall in Johnson City. Like everybody knows where that is. You know,
right.
Anyway, you get there, and my daughter at the time, she's about a year old. The first show she's ever been to, and my wife. This is back in the days, the big camcorders, the VHS camcorder. You know, it looked like a TV camera, you know, that you filmed.
Yeah.
So that's what my wife, you know, she was going. I said, in Freedom Hall, you got to film a match. So we get there, and it's me and Pat Rose. I think we opened up the show. And Cornette told me to go over with a sunset flip. You know.
Okay.
So big crowd. Match goes. You know, Pat's a great worker. I always liked Pat. We had an awesome match. You know, everything went as planned. 1, 2, 3. Got the first night in the Freedom Hall. Got to win the match. So I get to the back and I asked my wife, I said, did you get the match? She says, I didn't get to see anything. She said, as soon as you come out, my daughter Nikki took a screaming, crying fit because her daddy's, you know, getting beat up in the wrestling ring.
Oh.
And she had to go out in the hallway, and she didn't, you know, she couldn't film the match, so I didn't get any footage from it. But I do remember the match.
Yeah. Then you're working guys like Danny Davis, another legendary worker, and Ronnie Garvin. Yeah, Ronnie Garvin. And then Dirty White Boy. I've become friends with Tony recently in the past year. How was it working? And he was the top heel in that company for a long time, you know? Talk about Tony Anthony.
He was smooth as silk, man. I loved working with Tony. You know, I knew him from Memphis, too. He was actually in Memphis. Right.
And
Brian Lee and all that stuff. Because when I first came to Smoky Mountain, you know, after we left Memphis, you know, that's putting us over down there, wrestling Rock and Roll Express, you know, when we was in the main events. And you know, come up here, and you know, Cornette ain't gonna push me where I'm got my own organization in the area. You know, I remember first time I wrestled Brian Lee, he didn't want to pin me because, you know, he said, man, he said, I can't beat you. I said, yeah. I said, go ahead and do it. I said, give me a move, beat me. I said, ain't no big deal. But you know, all these guys that I got to work, you know, and then on the house shows, you know, I worked Jimmy Golden and Brian, and you know, Cornette, he took care of me. We had a good match. Me and Bobby Blades had some good matches too. It was a good TV matches. You know?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, first time I wrestled Bobby was I think it was in Paintsville, Kentucky. And me and him, I didn't know they was going to bring him in, and I just knew Bobby from the independents. You know, we was pretty good friends, and we could tear the house down. The wrestler was about the same size we could do. Great match, and Cornette just had me wrestling him, and he said, you know, he said slip Bobby over since I was the heel. I didn't know they was going to push him, bring him in, and make him the TV champion and all that stuff at the time. They didn't tell me anything. But I went out there, and we had a good match. I kept it on him the whole match, you know, as a heel. I didn't give him a whole lot till he came back. I remember coming back in the dressing room, and Cornette said, having a good time out there tonight, wasn't you? I said, yeah. He said, we're pushing him as our TV guy, our TV champion. I said, you should have told me.
Should have let me know.
Yeah, you let me know. You know, I told a little bit more. You know, but,
yeah. Yeah, they need better communication.
Yeah. We had some good guys. I mean, we had a guy in there one time, Doug Furness's brother, Mike Furness. He was. I don't know if you remember him or not.
Right. Yeah.
For Tennessee and all that stuff. I remember Cornette coming in the dressing room one night saying, "I need somebody to put over Mike Furness. He's terrible. He's horrible." I said, "I'll do it. I don't care. I can put me in there with him." I said, he just had all he had was one move. He just had to run and go like a football, tackle, and knock you down. So,
oh goodness!
But I enjoyed Smoky Mountain. It was like you're home every night, and sometimes I'd work 2 or 3 nights a week. And do the TV. So a funny story. My wife, I told her, I said, no, because Jim would call the house to give you your dates, your booking dates. And I was going on the road in the Independence, too. And I told my wife, I said, Jim Cornette's supposed to call on this night, around this time.
Right.
We told him about the time to call. And I said, make sure you answer the phone. And my daughter at that time, she was, probably a year or two old. And she hated to have her hair washed. Well, my wife was in there washing my daughter's hair. And when you wash your hair, she take a screaming fit, screaming bloody murder. At that time, she was washing my daughter's hair, screaming bloody murder. The phone rings. So it's probably Jim Cornette. So she has to get her up, put a towel on her head. She runs to the phone. When she opens the bathroom door, the steam comes out. The fire alarm goes up.
Oh goodness!
When she opens the phone, it's Jim Cornette. Well, in the background, my daughter's screaming bloody murder. The fire alarms, beep, going off, and she's talking to Jim just like the men you're talking right now. Also, she said, Cornette says, it sounds like you're having an emergency. She told me that. You could hear Cornette saying that.
That's hilarious.
So she's calm and easy. Sounds like you're having an emergency over there.
That is funny.
You did get the date.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
Talk to us about the Armstrongs a little bit.
Oh, yeah, the Armstrongs. I remember me and sometimes in the ring, it would be me and Brian, the road dog.
Yeah.
He would be under the mask of Bad Street. Me and him were tag team against his brothers, Scott and Steve. So I'd be the only one in the ring that wasn't Armstrong. That'd be pretty cool. And I remember wrestling, we got to wrestle Bob Armstrong too, which that was a big thrill for me from Southeastern years earlier.
Yeah. That was a big deal.
I wrestled all the Armstrongs. I don't think I ever had I was around him a lot, Brad Armstrong. I was around a lot, but I don't think I ever had a match against him, but I wrestled all the rest of them.
Yeah.
They always say, I've always heard Brad's the best. That's what I've always.
Yeah, Brad, he had the look, and he was smooth, and which all of them were good. But all of them were good. But I remember Road Dogg on the Raw one night came out, and he's talking about, he mentioned the word, he said, Samson and Delilah. He said, not my friend Mike Samson. But my phone lit up. Everybody in the world was texting me and calling me Road Dogg.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
But he was just starting back when him tag teams. I said he'd be Bad Street under the mask.
Yeah. That's very cool. I mean, you think about the Armstrongs, especially Bullet Bob. I mean, that's just a legend right there. If you just think of a few from our area, Bullet Bob was one of the guys that the whole town loved him. You know what I mean? It's just, he was so over. He had that fire, that true fire that you just can't replicate. You know what I mean? So.
Right, he'd wrestle another guy that I got to wrestle, the Mongolian Stomper.
Yeah, Archie. Yeah. Talk about that.
As a kid, man, they'd come to Castlewood, and we'd stay after school and help put the ring up and everything, just hang out. But, man, when the Stomper come out, Gorgeous George Jr. and against Ron Fuller, and he'd come at us, and, boy, we'd just run up the bleachers scared to death of him. And I remember years later, first I started wrestling on the independent scene, and we'd have some He was always tough, rough and tough to wrestle. And I wrestled him for Smoky Mountain too. You know, and that's a funny story because he was always a heel back when I wrestled him. When I first started wrestling, we'd have tough matches. Well, he was actually a babyface for Cornette on Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I think it's Morristown, Tennessee one night, just a house show, and I get there and he says, "You're working Archie." So, you know, I went to Archie and I'm thinking, you know, it's going to be like all the other matches.
Yeah.
Beat you up, put either stomp you, put the shin in the maki. Remember the shin in the maki?
Yeah.
That's actually how he beat me with. He said, "I'll just hit you with the shin in the maki." And he didn't say nothing else. We get in the ring. The referee comes over and he says, Archie said, "Attack him from behind." And when he turned around, man, I attacked him, started beating on him. He gave me the whole match. It wasn't a real long match, probably 10 minutes. But he sold the whole match. I beat him half to death. I was thinking, is he ever going to hit me back? You know, I'm thinking I'm beating up the Mongolians. And then he made his comeback because he was a babyface. He made his comeback with the shin in the maki on me, beat me. But that was some great stuff. You know, just been able to, been in the ring with a Mongolian stomper.
No doubt. Yeah, that's awesome.
Another story, I was thinking about that. Remember a guy named Ivan Koloff? I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great
me
guy.
And me and Bruno San Martino is probably the only two that's actually beat him in a Russian chain match.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
amazing.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
You might want to hear that story. But
I would love to hear it. Let's hear it.
This is at the Gray Fair in Tennessee, and that's when I still had the $1 billion baby look. You know, still had on the robe and the hair.
Uh-huh.
And Ivan left Crockett, and he was a heel, and he left Crockett. Anyway, the guy had me and him booked in a Russian chain match. So I get there, and I'm the baby face, and he's the heel. We go over the match in the back, doing all the chain spots and all that stuff. Once he's going to end up beating me in the chain match. When we get out there, when I come out, when I hit the ring, I'm getting booed out of the place. So y'all got the blonde hair and the robe, and Ivan comes out, and the whole crowd's chanting, "Ivan, Ivan, Ivan."
Yeah.
Ivan just looks at me as we're getting ready. We're putting the chains on. Ivan says, "Reverse the whole match." He said, "I'm the baby face, you're the heel." I figured when we got to the finish that he would, call an audible and beat me because, he's Ivan Koloff.
Right.
He's never lost it.
Right.
So I think Bruno's the only one I know that ever beat him.
Right.
He went through the whole match. The finish was, I'm dragging him around through there. I'm thinking, is he going to stop me? He didn't.
Wow.
He was in a Russian chain match.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So
yeah.
The fans caused me to beat him in a Russian chain match. That was good.
Yeah. And I've heard stories about those chain matches that they are no joke. I mean, Magnum TA told us a story. I've heard other guys talk about how the chain could just fly whichever way and hit you in the teeth or knock your head off, so.
Oh, yeah, you got hit with it. I mean, like you said, it hurt, and it's just a real chain. Like they swing it and then hit you, like I say, hit you in the head.
Yeah.
Hit all over,
Yeah.
It's tough matches. Ivan, he impressed me. He was a super tough guy, and he was the type, I was wrestling him one night, he said, "Snap, remember?" And he said, "Kick me in the head." I kicked him. I gave him a working kick. He goes, "Kick me in the head." He's like, "Kick me." I thought, okay. So I start kicking him in the head. Then he jumps to his feet and he says, "Punch me in the head. Harder, harder." What it was, he wanted me to bust him open. And I finally did. He's got some scar tissue.
Right.
He had a blade. Right. He always carries his blade under his tongue. And I forgot to bring it out. And he was wanting the juice. So I actually busted his head open for real.
Wow.
He had scar tissue on him, but he was just super tough. I'd be slamming him off the top. And he always gave you his best. He didn't just go out there. Some guys, whenever I had my own shows, if I brought in a star, everybody say, "Hey, I said, you're wrestling the star tonight." Well, the reason why is because, a couple of times I put the star against somebody else and they just go out there and eat them up, sort of like Garvin, just
yeah.
anything. And that'd be my main event. So I'd always, try to wrestle whoever I brought in because I could I'm paying them so I can get out of them what I want to get out of them for the fans and stuff. But yeah, he was a good guy.
And it's funny. When I met him years later in Radford, Virginia, at a big show there at the Dedman Center, and I remember meeting him. And I was in a band at the time playing music out in clubs and stuff, and we all went to wrestling. We loved wrestling, and my singer, he said, if they counted the sales of Ivan Koloff's daughter's gospel tape, I bet that thing has gone platinum just because how he would sell that tape and how you would buy the tape just because you loved Ivan. You know what I mean? And, here we all needed to listen to it to get the message from it. But at the time, it wasn't that we really cared about the tape. We wanted to meet Ivan. We just bought the tape to make him happy, you know? And I said, if they counted the sales on that thing probably platinum.
That's why I do, even now, you know, I do Iron Cross and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a ministry that we do too.
Yeah.
So I got these stickers of Iron Cross, you know, I put them on the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Say, what are you doing? Putting your picture on the Holy Bible. I said, well, it's a keepsake too, because when you give somebody something with your picture on it and it's autographed, even though it's the Bible, they're more likely to go show it to their uncle and their, you know, their family instead of just
That's awesome.
Oh, it's just a Bible. So I know what you're saying. Yeah, when you buy those.
Yeah.
The tape, I haven't had something to do with it. I'd go see Ric Flair wrestle, and he'd take the tape off his finger where he juiced one night.
Yeah.
Threw it down. Well, I seen that tape. I picked that bloody piece of tape up and I carried it in my billfold, you know, the whole time I was a teenager. You know,
oh, wow.
You know, why would you do that? And I said, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
You know, anything, throw the tape down to you grab it, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, with Ivan, you know, and Jimmy Valiant, we being in that area, we would see him all over the place. And Jimmy Valiant would be in Walmart, and Ivan Koloff would be in Walmart or a grocery store or something. And you'd learn about these shows they're going to be working on or whatever. But I just remember meeting Ivan, and I felt like, you know, he was probably, let's just be honest, he was past his prime at this time. But I felt like he gave everything in that match, and you would have never known that he was what you would say past his prime. You know what I mean? He was still working, and he might have been a little slower on certain things, but I tell you, there's nothing like Ivan Koloff. He was great, you know.
You know, in 1990, I wrestled down here in Castlewood. I brought him into the fairgrounds. Me and him were the main event down here, you know, and that's what I thought got impressed me. He done everything. He was like slam me off the top rope. You know, he's taking all the bumps. He worked just like he did on television. You know,
right.
These guys, they just want to lay down and do nothing. The big stars, you know, just get money and don't want to feet. You know, you go out there and they give you a match. So, yeah, sort of like, you know, we mentioned Buddy Landell earlier too. You know, I remember the first time I wrestled, you know, Buddy Landell. We got to the show, and you know, and Buddy was a great friend of mine. You know, we was great friends out of the ring and at the ring, in the ring too. But this story, the first times I ever wrestled him, I think it was in Kentucky also. Anyway, I'm there and I'm fired up. You know, I'm wrestling. Just come off Crockett TV. I'm wrestling. Said, "Ain't your boy Buddy Landell tonight?" And he comes in, and, you know, he shows up, and boy, he ain't in no condition to wrestle. You know, he's partying all day, and they're bringing him in. They taking him and putting him in the shower. I'm thinking, oh no, you know, it's my big night. You know, but anyway, an hour later, you know, he's come down the hall combing his hair. You know, he's back to himself, and I just watched him on TV, and I said, he said, "Who am I? We're working tonight." I said, "Mike Samson." "Who's that?" "Mike Samson." He came over, "Hey, Mike, Buddy Landell." I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Nice to meet you." I said, "Anything you want to do tonight?" I said, "Just, I'd watch his matches." I said, "Just give me the big body slam, hit me with a corkscrew elbow, slap the figure four on me, and I'll give up." He slapped me in the chest and said, "No, man." He said, "You roll me up and pin me," and walked off. I was thinking, what? You know, you just come off television. It worked out great for me because, you know, the whole locker room was watching the match.
Yeah.
And the match was like, then he said, "Just roll me up." I rolled him up, pinned him right in the middle of the ring. So that's the way Buddy was. He just didn't care.
That's awesome. Did he ever say, "Watch the hair" when you were working him? Watch the hair, brother.
He said, "I'd treat my hair like one of my kids." And actually, he's the one who showed us how to take care of our hair, you know.
Yeah.
Showed us how to bleach it and use them to get on the Nexus products. He said, the first time he seen me when my hair's all frizzy and his and smooth, he said, "Mike, brother," he said, "you got to take care of your hair. You got to treat it like a kid." That turned me on to the Nexus products, you know, so I take care of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, so you end up leaving Smoky Mountain in 94, and I know that they rounded about 95. They went ahead and wrapped up business for good. Why did you leave Smoky Mountain?
Really just, I was doing a lot of independent. That's when I started, probably around 95, when I started doing the Iron Cross gimmick too. Right,
exactly.
So I invented myself, you know, because we wanted to get more into doing the ministry type part of it and that type thing. So and we were doing a lot of our own shows that time too, and I was renting my ring out and stuff a lot. So it was mainly just, I got a lot of calls from Cornette during that time to do stuff, but I was already booked or doing something else, because we'd go to different places and get in doing our own shows. And I'd take Jimmy Vant, and my wife, Farmer's Daughter, and I could draw just good. Actually, I outdrew Smoky Mountain on a lot of shows,
Yeah.
Just because, we had to work harder at it.
Right.
I'd telemarket a place, I'd get in and sell tickets. We'd go through the high schools and, talk about drugs, do whatever. I'd take a midget wrestler with me and, or somebody would come in and do into the schools and sell tickets, and one kid get in free with a paying adult, that kind of stuff. So we actually was doing good ourselves and growing stuff. So
yeah. Did you ever do anything at Lebanon Middle?
Yeah, we wrestled there a lot. Lebanon Middle.
Yeah, I think that's the place I've seen.
Bring in Buddy and Ricky up there in the government center. Actually, the last time, about a year, before Buddy passed away, the snowstorm, we run the government center up there. I had Ricky Morton and Buddy Landale, brought them in. And actually, Ricky didn't make it that night. It was a big snowstorm that night. And Buddy had come in his Porsche. He was living up in Chilhowie. He come down and, when we got there, the weather was cold, flurrying a little bit, nothing big. He come in, I got him trained with some of my students, where I had my Samson's gym, had my wrestling school there. And he come in to work with my students. And I was going to use him like as a commissioner or something that night. But anyway, it snowed about before the show was over. I'll probably do throw over 300 people there during the snowstorm. And it was about 4 or 5 inches I only left. And I remember he left that Porsche. Don't know if I'm going to make it home or not. He called me when he got home. And, Mike, brother, I risked my life for you not. He's going on and on about he barely made it home in that snowstorm. But that's one of the things that I remember, being around him. And I remember I eat with him down here at the Mexican restaurant in Castlewood.
Yeah.
About a week after that. And, people still remember him. And if you've ever been around Buddy, he talks real loud when he's in the restaurant, And I remember one of the last things he ever said, and I never will forget it, is we was leaving, getting ready to get in the cars, and somebody recognized him as we was coming up. And they said, Buddy Landale. They said, do you know John Cena? And Buddy said, no, but he knows me. And he gave me the fist bump,
He dropped the microphone right there.
Yeah. I don't know him, but he knows me.
Oh, goodness.
That's true, though. I mean, he didn't lie, So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mike, talk to us. You mentioned a little bit, around this, time after Smoky Mountain, you started the Iron Cross gimmick. Talk about how, your faith kind of, played into that and how it's guided your career and just kind of give us a little snippet of your testimony a little bit.
Yeah. Well, back in actually the church that I'm at now, Emmanuel Chapel here in Castlewood, me and my wife actually got saved in this church back in 1986.
Okay.
And then I'd been wrestling for a couple of years. And actually at that time, I actually started, I'd wrestle as the wrestling evangelist, Mike Samson sometimes. I'd put my mom would make me some vests with Jesus as Lord on the back of it. And I remember I went and when I first got saved, there was a minister named Norval Hayes, and he had a book out called How to Be a Soul Winner, about winning souls and, sharing your faith with others. And, I read that book, so I went and got me some little tracts, Bible tracts, and rolled them up and taped them together, and I'd throw them out to the crowd as that came out. So I started doing that, for a while back. And everybody called me the Jesus guy, which was a compliment to me.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned Tony Peters and stuff before. That all those guys that I trained and started, they sort of made fun of me. They'd be like, the wrestling crowd would say, Mike's, they thought I was crazy for being in church. Then the church thought I was crazy for being in wrestling. So, it was double-edged sword. It was back and forth. I lost either way I went. So I decided, hey, I was going to be a witness and share my faith and do whatever. And as time went on, we started being healed. So I quit throwing out the tracks and that kind of stuff. And then, by this time, I've been evangelizing, and I decided, I need to repackage myself, because we wanted to give out Bibles and tracts and used it as a ministry for young kids stuff too. So that's why I come up with I lift weights, got the gym, so that's the pumping iron, and I went with Jesus and the cross, so I call myself the Iron Cross, and I got a Bible scripture, Romans 10:9. If you shall confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart God's raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. I always write that at the bottom of my pictures,
I love it, man.
But, and it was everybody, you can't preach in schools. I said, you can if you're the Iron Cross, because I'm going there and I'll throw out Bibles and everything that nobody knows what's even going on, you know. So
Yeah.
God's really blessed us over the years, you know, giving out thousands of Bibles, and we've actually seen thousands of people, you know, get saved even at the wrestling matches. And not just the Iron Cross, you know, we do a thing called a Choir of the Fire. You know, they would bring in Sting and Ted DiBiase and Nikita Cole.
Oh, yeah.
And me and George South and a few of the other guys, you know, we'd go on tour. I mean, we had 23,000 people at the Greensboro Coliseum one night, you know, and they brought in gospel groups, you know, Seventh-day Slumber, Newsboys, you know, the wrestlers would do a little skit, give our testimonies, you know, Sting would, you know, I'd have a shirt on that says Power, the other guy'd have one that says Lust, and one says Drugs, and just that type thing.
Yeah.
But even some Sting would come out, you know, big pyro, big setup, you know, he'd come out, boom, come to the ring, and Ted DiBiase would bring us out with a briefcase full of money, saying, you need power. You know, I'd jump up and flex and do all my stuff. And another one, you know, Lust and Drugs and all this stuff. Yeah. DiBiase. Then we'd all attack Sting and beat him up, put chains around him. Then he would break the chains, call out to the Lord and get saved, and start bumping us all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So we do stuff
That's
like
awesome.
that, you know, and then, then the Iron Cross, you know, sometimes I've ministered out of the ring before and had 40 people come down and get saved. You know, it's just an avenue that, you know, God actually uses. We've seen more fruit in it than anything. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Making appearances now, you know, I mainly do it for the ministry, you know, but passing out medals and tracts, and the people's not expecting that.
Right.
Right. You know, so.
Right.
Yeah, you might not get those people in a church, but hey, maybe you'll get them at a wrestling event or, you know, something else, and you got to reach the people where they are sometimes, you know. Right. So that's awesome.
Right. Go into all the world and preach the gospel. You know, it's like
there you go. There you go.
That's what I love about. That's why I love about George South so much, is now he'll go to Goodwill, get the free Bibles, and give them out at his table. I mean, I've gotten to know George a little bit, and around the time that I interviewed George, my mom was having a back surgery, and I became friends with him on Facebook and posted about it. And he was texting me at least every other day asking how my mom was, and that just shows that showed me a lot about George South. And a lot of people say different things about George, but I will never say that he's a bad guy. He's a good one, you know.
Yeah, George is a good one. I've known him for years, you know. When I first got down in Moxville, he was on the first show I was ever on, you know, so we were.
I love you, buddy. I love you, you know. Yeah. That's George, buddy.
We pulled the ring with one of those shows, one of those the Fire shows I just said, and we Sting and all them. Yeah. We did one George was the one that actually booked me, and ones that actually got the guys together. And I remember one time he was pulling his ring from Charlotte, and I met up with him probably around Wistful, and we pulled his ring from, all the way from Charlotte to Cleveland, Ohio. Didn't even have any lights on it.
Wow.
Winter time, you know what I'm saying? But we pulled that ring all the way up there, you know, and done the show and everything went back. But for me and George, you know, my wife laughs to this day, because that Greensboro Coliseum show, you know, we staying at the Sheraton there in Greensboro. You know, just being in the Greensboro Coliseum was the holy grail, you know what I'm saying? Just that's where the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, that's where all the big matches are from, the Greensboro.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
When me and George was there, you know, we were just in awe, you know, just being in the Coliseum, you know, thinking about like that Paul Jones, Rick Flair. Well, we were staying 2 doors down from each other in the hotel, and we get on the phone, talk for 3 hours, you know. And my wife's like, "You're 2 rooms away. Why don't you just go down to your room?" we get on talking about wrestling, you know, and it's we talked for 3 hours. But,
man, I wish you would have recorded that. We could do something with that, Mike. Yeah, I'm sure. So, okay, so you're doing the Iron Cross gimmick. Now, I want to tie this in, because around this time, there's 2 young boys. They're working at their dad's drugstore in the middle of town in Lebanon, Virginia. It's Family Drug Center, and Ralph Street, the pharmacist, has 2 boys, Jimmy and Jared Street. And we're working, we're stocking, we're taking out the trash, we're taking deliveries to nursing homes. We're doing whatever we can to make a little money because we've had a job. Honestly, you know, a lot of people say, like, when did you get your first job? Oh, I was 16. Oh, I was 18, whatever. We had it probably from 10, 11, 12, something like that. We would would work for free comic books, or we would, whatever. But when it came down to it, our first official job was for our dad at his drugstore. Well, it just so happens there's this pretty lady working upstairs, and she came down one day, and we might have been running our mouth about wrestling, probably. And she says, "Oh, did you know that I'm a wrestler and my husband's a wrestler?" And she was like, "Yeah, I work as the farmer's daughter." And then she ends up bringing us a picture signed of Iron Cross and her. And we just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Now, I would never expect her to remember us, and I would never expect her to have told you about us. But when it comes down to it, we've actually met your wife long before we actually got to meet you. We had seen you wrestle, but didn't get to meet you. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. How it came about, this is sort of a funny story too. When me and my buddy started doing the wrestling shows, and we sort of went in together.
Yeah.
It's expensive, so we're trying to keep costs down.
Yeah.
We're using ourselves. We're using Jimmy Bryant. We need girl wrestlers. So we call a few girl wrestlers. They're wanting $400 or $500 to come in.
Oh, yeah.
I said, hey, his girlfriend at the time, my wife missed it. Said, hey, we trained them to wrestle. They get to a match to have a girls match on the show. Well, we actually, we worked with them enough to get them to a match, and actually, Missy, my wife, she done great. She'd come out to the Mountain Music by Alabama, and all these little West Virginia towns, and Kentucky and hills.
Oh, they ate it up, I bet.
But as soon as that music hit, and she'd come out, she'd wear the Daisy Duke outfit, the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
She was over big time,
I bet, yeah.
Her and Jimmy Bryant down to I'd be down there putting the ring up. I'd send her and Jimmy Bryant down to the Walmart, steal pictures, farmer's daughter and Jimmy Bryant. We had another guy that wrestled with us. We called him Super Mario. He looked just like one of the.
Yes, Super Mario. Yes, I know who that is. He worked Memphis some, right? He'd worked all over. Yeah.
Yeah, met him in West Virginia, so we'd bring him in. So you had Jimmy Bryant, you had the farmer's daughter, you had Super Mario. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
She actually done, Mitzi, she actually done pretty good. She loved wrestling. She grew up watching wrestling stuff, but she never really wanted to be out there. It's one of those deals.
Right.
You get that. She's throwing up before the show. Like you be fine, just go out there, just go out there and do this and that. But yeah, that's how that started.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember my cousin and he worked at the drugstore too. It was literally Family Drug Center, by the way, because that we all worked. Yeah, and my cousin, it is. Yeah, Jared's still there. He's the owner now, my brother, and it's still kicking. And then we see a picture of you, and we're like, okay, let's not bug her too much. She's pretty big.
I had a similar story like that too. It's a bunch of teenage boys. We'd always walk this place called Schuler Milton's here in Castlewood. It's like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's about a half mile from my house. So when my buddies are over, we'd walk to the store. And here, you can imagine a bunch of 14, 15-year-old guys.
Right.
We go back there and go to the magazine section.
Right.
All my buddies, they're picking up all the girly magazines.
Right. Exactly.
Man, look at this one, look at this. Well, I'm over at the wrestling magazine. I'm picking up the wrestling magazine. And they're trying to holler at me, show me this picture of this girl, and I'm saying, "Oh man, I can't believe it! Superstar Billy Graham beat Bruno Sammartino for the WWF World Title," and they're like, "What?" So my mind, I told you I was one track mind on wrestling. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. Well, I did want to talk about this, but one of the things about you is your awesome look, man. I mean, you have always been in shape, and I know you're talking about this 130-pound kid back in the day, but man, you beefed up. And I've always said this. I mean, I'll say it now. You've always kept yourself in great shape, and you've always looked great, man. I mean, what is it? Just consistency?
It's just, I started working out when I was a teenager, and I always tell everybody from then to now, I've never missed a workout.
Yeah, there you go.
What I mean by that is I've never, I've had to reschedule a workout because something came up. But I've never got up and said, I'm not going to work out today. I always wanted to, when I train my guys, I always say, be the wrestler that you would want to see.
Right.
That's the way I looked at it,
Yeah.
I always trained hard, ate a good diet, and just for the record, I never took any kind of steroids, nothing like that. I always trained natural and tried to eat right. And I was not a bodybuilder. I never trained to be a bodybuilder. So I always trained for wrestling. strength.
Right.
But when I became the Iron Cross, that's when I sort of, I added a little more size, a little more muscles. I wanted that superhero look, like that.
Right.
For the Iron Cross. But, mainly just, training regular, 2 or 3 times a week. I train 5 days a week now, cardio and 2 days of weight training.
Yeah.
But, I never did really do a lot. It's like everybody would say I always did the short, brief, high-intensity workouts, like 1 or 2 sets per body part, worked the whole body. I never had leg day, chest day. Everybody talking about this, going to the gym. I worked out 2 to 3 times a week and did the whole body, 1 or 2 sets.
Yeah.
I always had people say, that won't work. Well, I'll run a gym and train guys. And I would train my guys, like I say, be the wrestler that you would like to see.
Right.
And go to that, because building self-confidence in people and, training them to be wrestlers, that was the main thing. I told you when I was that 130-pound guy, I've never got discouraged one time that I can remember. People would say, how you going to be in wrestling? So I don't know, but I will be there. I'll be in these magazines. You'll see me on TV. Well, my guys, I had 2 buddies that was going to do it with me. They'd actually spend the night with me. We'll get up. We was in college, Southwest Community College. We get up at 3 a.m. and train to 6, catch the college bus. Guess what happened when the alarm clock went off at 3 o'clock? I'm like, let's go. Let's work out. I'll be there in a minute. I'd go in there and work out till time to go to school, And then later on, they ended up watching me on television. I'd get calls from them after, years later. Man, I wished I'd done it with you, but I just had that desire in me. You're talking about my training, and I always just wanted to, have a certain look.
Yeah.
To be a wrestler, I never could stand it, and I still can't to this day. Somebody just come up and they just don't even try. And you look like the guy mowing your grass.
Right.
Who'd want to buy a ticket to see him wrestle?
Right. Right.
You always look for the paraphernalia. You always had the robes, the capes, the mask, the blonde hair. Shave my body, get the tan. Lift the weights. I wanted to, sort of like the band Kiss. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
The spectacle. Just seeing that. And Elvis Presley. You go see. He had on the outfit. If he came out there in just a pair of, Crocs and a wife beater on, just sort of kill it. And I even told the guys, even at the shows, if you ever noticed, I'd come out to the gimmick tables, but I wouldn't hang out in the crowd before a wrestle. So they said that you're sort of killing. You're out there talking to everybody, laughing and joking and talking. Then you run back there and put your stuff on, and you come out to wrestle, and everybody's like, if they ain't seen you yet, or if you just come out to do an autograph session, you go in the back. Then when your music gets to come out, you're something special. So I tried to teach my guys and live by that same principle. To stay in shape, look like a wrestler, conduct yourself like a wrestler. And if guys, even if they're not on top, act like you are on top.
Yeah.
I even went to shows with all the big stars. The Road Warriors, Steamboat, Flair. And sometimes I'd sell pretty much just as much pictures as they do, or sometimes even more. For the simple reason I was dressed out, I was shaking hands with people, and just being the character, becoming that character. And I wanted to ask a question too, if I can.
Of course.
Where the Plastic Sheik, is that like the original Sheik, or is that like the Iron Sheik? Is that or is it just something different?
It's kind of a take. I collect wrestling action figures, so it's kind of a take on the Iron Sheik being the Plastic Sheik.
Yeah,
from my collection of wrestling figures.
I wrestled with the Iron Sheik. So
yeah.
But I remember as a kid, Ed Fire had the original Sheik. We got a little channel out of Bluefield, Channel 6, WBBA.
Oh, yeah.
Bluefield. We got the big time wrestling, when it first came out, and the original Sheik would be on it. So
Are you talking about Ed Farhat?
Ed Farhat.
Yeah. Cosroe, that guy's a legend. Did you have some run-ins with him, you said?
I wrestled on some shows with him, never got to wrestle against him.
Gotcha. Okay. Were you in the same locker room with him?
Yeah.
I've heard some funny stories about how he would blow dry his mustache and stuff. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, yeah. He was just always just hilarious, just didn't be around. Just talking to him, just the way he would, his mannerisms and the way he would say things. And he wasn't even trying to be funny, but he was just funny. It's like the bushwhackers. We'd wrestle the bushwhackers. We'd be in the back, and they're doing their gimmick as they're talking to you. I'll throw you bloody ropes. And they're walking around doing the bushwhacker walk. Back in the back. It was just us. But he was sort of like that,
That's awesome. Yeah, we were talking about your physique. Was there any wrestlers that was like, man, you got it together, brother? Was there anybody that really complimented you that you remember that stood out?
As a kid, the wrestling magazine, seeing Mil Mascaras and seeing Billy Graham, Superstar Billy Graham. They always, those guys on the cover of the magazines, that I carry around with me, like I told you, I was a collector of the magazines. Those guys just stood out to me.
That's cool. That's cool.
The ones with the good, I was always drawn to the guys who had just the look,
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I was running the gym. Everybody'd be like, I'd have some power lifters, and they'd want me to power lift with them. And I'd say, my shoulders would start hurting. I said, I don't care about how much weight I can lift. I said, I'd rather look like I could lift it as to lift it and not look like it.
Right. There you go. That's it. Yeah.
Some of the guys in the gym, they could bench press twice as much as me. But as far as you looking at me, I look like I could bench a lot more than they could.
Yeah.
So to this day, I've never had nobody come up on the street and say, here, bench this 500 pounds. They'd always say, you look like you can do 500.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Unless you're the barbarian and you can do both,
Right. I've actually worked out with some, the Warlord and Barbarian, all those guys, and they were just unbelievable. Just
wow. Yeah.
I remember one time we were in Pittsburgh for WCW, and I never will forget it because Ric Flair says, we're going to the gym in the morning. Who wants to go? It's like, yes. So it was me and GQ, my partner, Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Kevin Sullivan. We all go to the Gold's Gym in Pittsburgh. Well, you can imagine how it is. This is back when they're all over big time. We walk in that gym, and at Gold's Gym, Ric Flair's got the polo shirt on. We all got the Zubad pants on. The fanny packs. Rick walks in, the whole gym.
Yeah.
The Nature Boys here. Those guys, they were all working out. We were just, hanging out with them and doing the stuff. So that's pretty cool thing that you remember like that.
Yeah.
And I remember the Warlord over on the power rack, with like he probably had 700 or 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds. He's ever struggling and a grunting and a sweating. Leans popping over and big. Ultimate Warrior, same way, Jim Helvig, these guys.
That is
phenomenal.
No joke.
I was in WWF. I was a small guy. Around 5'10", 220 pounds, and you got Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant. You got all these. It was the land of the giants back in those days.
Yeah.
Oh, no joke. No joke.
Heavyweight for 220.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. Now, after you go through Smoky Mountain, obviously you go back to the Indies and you're doing the gimmick with Iron Cross and stuff. You do start working for Southern States there for Bo James. Talk about, I guess, working for him, because, you had a whole run of awesome matches for him, working with guys like Casey Thunder, another Nelson Royal trainee, Stan Lee, Steve Flynn, your buddy GQ as the War Machine. Talk about working with those guys. Talk about that time working in Southern States.
Yeah, that was just let's say Bo started running shows down around the Kingsport area, places like that. He first brought in me and GQ, as the $1 Billion Babies.
Yeah.
Probably 92, I'm thinking. We're sort of winding it down. Usually great tag teams, you get 45 good years. I heard David Lee Roth one time say, you're here today, you're gone later today.
Yeah.
That's about how it is in wrestling. When you get on something, you ride that bubble. Like I was telling you, $1 Billion Babies, we got with all the magazine coverage. We won the world class IWCCW World Tag Team titles 3 times. We sort of done all that, and then we sort of both of us heading off. Like I said, he was heading off for the War Machine, and me, I was heading off for the Iron Cross. And Mo started running. We did a couple of shows for him, and it was Mike Samson, that type thing. And I actually wrestled for him for a while with Mike Samson before. And he got like a little local television deal that he was doing local here. So I'd advertise my gym on there and wrestle for him.
Yeah.
When I started doing Iron Cross, he had me as his champion and stuff for a while. And I'll tell you a good story, Manny Fernandez story. You remember the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez?
Oh, of course. Love it. Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine, and I know we were wrestling a Thanksgiving show for Bo down in Kingsport, the old National Guard Armory. And I was Bo's champion, Southern States champion. I never will forget it. Because Manny come in, and he always wanted to wrestle me because we always had pretty good matches. And Manny said, put me with Cross tonight. And Manny came over and said, what do you want? Bo said, I want Cross over in the middle, 1, 2, 3. that didn't go over too well for me. Both of them, I want to beat Manny in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, because I was a champion. Well, Manny said, that's cool. Manny said, I'll give you one. You remember the move, the Hoobie driver?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He said, I'll give you one Hoobie driver. You kick out at 2.5. He said, I'll go for another one. You slide across my back, schoolboard me. And he said, but after the match, he said, stay in the ring. Like, okay. I watched enough Manny matches to know what he meant by that.
Right.
In other words, actually, he was going to do the job, but he was going to leave me laying the process. But he was only there for 1 night, and here I am, the champion. So I never will forget it. We had a good match. Everything went great, smooth as silk. The finish went perfect as planned. The Hoobie driver, Friday kick out, he goes for another one. I saw schoolboy, 1, 2, 3. As soon as the 3 count, I slide under the bottom rope, grab my belt, raise it up, head back to the dressing room. In a few minutes, Manny comes in. He comes storming in the dressing room. What are you doing? He said, I told you to stay in the ring. I said, amen. And at that time, I said, I've been in this business for 15 years. And he looked at me, and I looked at him. He reached out and gave me a high five. Turned around and walked off. I knew what he was going to do. He was going to beat me up and leave me laying.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Another great work. We tag team stuff a lot and done a lot of stuff with. And another guy, Hector Guerrero, I teamed up with him and wrestled him quite a bit. It's pretty cool.
How was it? Those Guerreros were so smooth, right? So tight, so smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the first night I wrestled Hector, all he said to me was, protect my body. That's all I asked.
Yeah.
That still stuck with me. I started using that line as I got older. It's like...
Yeah. Well, I've heard Ricky Morton say I've got to manage against Ricky Morton before. I remember going out there and he said, boys, just don't hurt me.
Right. They remember wrestling fake. That's what he said.
Right.
But I remember a Ricky Morton story. If you ever get to talk to Ricky, ask him about having Mike Samson, Iron Cross, arrested. I think it was in Whitfield, Virginia, one night. But they got a good rib on one night. It was one of my shows that had Ricky booked on. He knew a cop up there he was good friends with. Mm-hmm. You know how it is in Virginia. You got to go through the State Athletic Commission.
Right.
The DPOR. You got to have a bond, license, mother's license, license. You got to have everything. Tickets, exactly right. Well, anyway, I'm up there. I'm wrestling. I'm running the show. It's already hectic. You're trying to get all the tickets in, the advance tickets. You're trying to do the matches. You're trying to come up to finishes. I got a match myself, and Ricky's there. All of a sudden, boom, text on the door. It's a state police. Guy walks in. I need to see Mike Samson. Mike Sparrow, probably used my real name at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over there. Come over to, I need you to stop this match, take your ring down. He's telling me he's got these papers here that says I'm not, the license, something's wrong with my license. They're revoking everything. We've got a packed house. Ricky's there. So I said, listen, I got everything in order. And I said, ask Ricky Morton up there. I said, he knows me. And Ricky threw up his hand and says, I don't know anything. I ain't involved in this. I'm thinking, what? So I'm searching Ricky. I love your Ricky tell it. I'm searching through. I had my briefcase out, and I'm searching through everything, trying to show the cop, that I am legal and I do have my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm searching and digging, and finally, Ricky starts busting out laughing. He tells me the truth. But, he tells that story every time around.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, but they have me going.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. I love that.
So, Mike, you've been everywhere, wrestled so many great people, and I'm sure it's going to be a tough question for you, but if you had like a favorite match from your career that you can look back on and just be like, I had fun, it was a good match, what would that be? What would your favorite match be?
I can tell you right off which one it is. It's
awesome.
Me defending as Mike Samson, they're defending my UWA heavyweight title in a cage match in Roanoke, Virginia, at the Roanoke Civic Center against Chief Wahoo McDaniel.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was my childhood hero, about 11 years. I think that was in 88 that match happened. And I remember I never will forget it because I was looking across the ring thinking, this is Chief Wahoo McDaniel, my hero. And I'm having a match with him. We had a big bloody cage match that night, I still got it on VHS.
Oh, wow, man.
Because I don't even have a VHS player, don't even work anymore, but I still have a match, that my wife had filmed for me that night. But that was probably like you said, I've had a lot of great matches. I've wrestled Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, Bret Hart, Chris Jericho, I could talk for an hour on who all I've wrestled, but that match right there just sort of stands out just because that was my first hero of wrestling, as a kid.
It's like a full circle moment, your love for wrestling started with Wahoo, and then there you are in the ring with him. That's awesome.
Yeah, the little kid that came in there and watched him on TV now, 11 years later, or whatever, 12, whatever it was, in the ring with him, and he had a heck of a match. Wahoo was a tough, he was older at that time too, and he was like Ivan, he didn't hold back. He was like Garvin and Ivan, the harder you hit them, the better they like it.
Yeah. Because it's so funny that you say the first match you remember is Wahoo or Saw. That's the first match I remember seeing. I remember it. I'll never forget it. TV came on. They had one of those wooden box TVs that sat on the floor and had all the decorations on top, and turned it on. And it was Wahoo McDaniel versus Italian Stallion. That was the first match I remember ever seeing. And then, of course, we became fans later on. But yeah, man, I was mesmerized at that point. It was all I needed to see,
Yeah, Wahoo just had that something special about him.
Yeah.
Even in his interviews, the interviews with the headdress on, if I had to do over again, I'd probably be an Indian. The house always had a tan, dark skin. My wife said, you should have been an Indian. I said, if I had to do over, I'd probably done the Indian gimmick. I don't know how I never did it,
Well, I think it worked out pretty good for you. So, as we're kind of wrapping things up here, and this has been an amazing conversation, and we got to get you back on for part 2. I need you to go ahead and commit to that for us, because I know there's so many more stories to tell. But, the one thing I would love for you to tell the people about your church. Yeah.
Well, our church, the name of it's Emmanuel Chapel. And it's here in Castlewood, Virginia, 98 Stand Street, Castlewood, Virginia. And we actually have a YouTube channel, too, that you can go. It's Emmanuel Chapel Church YouTube. You can if you want to hear some of my preaching, some of my messages. I got some of them. I got my mask on.
Cool.
Testimony.
Yeah.
So you have to check that out. And even here in my church, I got the wrestling ring backdrop here.
I love it. Love it. So cool. Yeah.
The whole Bible is a wrestling match.
It is. It is.
Predetermined.
Right, it is. Yeah.
The Genesis 32 story, when Jacob wrestled God, so God blew his hip out, in the match, So,
right.
So I always tell people, they said, you mean you can be a preacher and a wrestler? I said, yeah. I said, God's a wrestler. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Right. Right.
You look it up in the Bible. I said, Moses wore a veil over his face. He wore a mask. If you read the book of Revelation, Jesus, he comes out. He's got on a big robe with the blonde hair and the good old buckle around his chest. There's the world.
Right. Right.
John the Baptist, he wore leather and was a wild man. So there's all kinds of characters that goes along with the wrestling. But,
it would have been
In Castlewood, our services are 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. I invite you guys. If you're ever in town, stop in.
I will. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we will, because that would be awesome.
Anybody to come down, we can talk, right? Talk about God, and we talk about the 2 favorite subjects. Talk about God, and we talk about wrestling. I have
I love it.
I always have a mask handy. We pull the mask out. I've preached in my mask.
Preached in the hood. I love it. Yeah, that's great.
I did at the shows. We've had a match, and pull out and give a testimony, and have 40 people come down and get saved.
Yeah,
I've actually been in churches in my wrestling outfit. I had one guy, the Noble Hayes, he said, can you come and give your testimony? It's like 2,000 people down in Gatlinburg. I said, you want me to wear my warm-up suit and carry my belt? He said, no, I want you to come out in your wrestling trunks in your outfit.
Yeah.
So we're going to shake up the people and the devil.
Yeah.
I did.
I love it. Now I got to ask, not that this is too important, but it is important, but not that, I'm kind of making something up here, but do you think that you've won more souls with the mask on? Do you think that helps? Do you think that?
I've won thousands more people with the mask on. I said,
wow,
is the soul winner,
Right.
Because, kids, and I can tell you stories. I'll tell you one quick story. We're wrapping this up, but you never know what kind of influence that you are. And the one quick testimony of the Iron Cross, passing out the Bibles and the tracts. I had somebody come up to me at a show one time, and they said, "Can you sign your picture to this little boy? He's in the hospital." So I just thought, I just signed, "Get well soon, Iron Cross, blah, blah, blah," and send it to him. Well, anyway, sometime later on Facebook, his mother contacts me, and she gives me the testimony. And I'll probably get emotional, so I'll tell you this, but he said, "I was that little boy's favorite wrestler." He had that 8x10 picture of me. He had cancer at the time. And she said the only thing that kept him alive at night was they would prop my picture up beside his bed, with a light on it. And he would look at the emotion. He'd look at the Iron Cross, and that would help him make it through the night. And I was thinking,
oh, wow.
That's when it actually dawned on me of what kind of influence that we were having. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I never dreamed of that. I'm just looking at it as a wrestler, passing out Bibles, passing out tracts, and most people thinking, this guy's crazy or whatever. Because the kids and different people, I've had testimony after testimony, people coming up to me. Then I had one guy come up to me one time. He got in the ring. We used to get in the ring and take pictures. You might remember this, but the old Polaroid cameras. Intermission, we'll get in the, $5 and come get a picture with the Iron Cross, and I'll pick you up in the torture rack or do something like that.
Yeah.
So I got in the ring with me one night with his kids, and I could tell he'd been drinking, and and he had some good-looking 2-3 boys with him. And I said, "You got some good-looking kids here." And I said, and I didn't do anything mean to him. And I just said, I said, "You need to get these boys in church." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I do." He said, "I'm going through a rough time right now." He said, my wife has left me and I'm living with this other woman and drinking. He said, "But you're right." And I took pictures with him, just shook his hand. And I said, when I was shaking his hand, I said, "Think about it." That's all I said to him.
Yeah.
He came to me a few years later. He said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I know." He started telling me the story. He said, in the ring that night, he said, "I come in, I was drinking, living with a lady and on drugs and just away from God." He said, "You told me that, need to get my boys in church and just think about it." He said, "When I left that night," he said, "that's all I could hear was your voice saying, think about it."
Yeah.
He said, "Every time I shut my eyes, I could hear your voice saying, think about it." And he said, "I just wanted to tell you." He said, rededicate his life to the Lord. He said he's got back with his wife. He's off drugs. He said, "I write gospel music." I was like, wow.
Wow.
God took three words that wasn't even scripture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's how God uses you.
That is awesome.
But back to your question, through the Iron Cross, we've seen people saved, healed, delivered from different bondages, all kinds of testimonies.
Right.
Through the Iron Cross. Of course, we do through our church and stuff too, but I'm mainly like a teaching. I teach the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. That's part of the gospel and stuff too, is, teaching other people the word and sending them out too. But,
absolutely.
You can't win the lost at a gospel concert and in church most of the time, because, how many sinners, I don't remember going to church that often when I was a sinner. You know what I'm saying? I never thought, hey, I'll go to the gospel concert. No, we'd go to, the Kiss concert, the Def Leppard, and pass out Bibles and tracts, people there. I've actually prayed for people at concerts and stuff like that. But,
yeah.
And a lot of people in wrestling, that made fun of me. They all ended up, Tony Peters, even Hoot Gibson and all of them. I never remember Hoot making fun of him or anything, but he ended up getting saved, singing gospel music. And Tony ended up getting saved, singing gospel music. And just, a lot of them, in the wrestling dressing room, I never got to, nobody come up and say, "Can you pray for my big toes hurting, or I got a hangnail?"
Right.
They come up to me and say, "Mike, man, my wife's left me, and I'm on drugs. I'm hooked on drugs, and I don't know what to do." It's those type of things.
That's the big stuff. Yeah.
And you pray for people, and you give them the word, and you talk to them. So stuff behind the scenes that people never knew, but they knew I was a Christian. They'd asked me to pray for them, that type of thing. And I was able to give them like a book. I witnessed to Bobby McDaniel, and so many people. I'd give them books and stuff, and Ronnie Garvin, all of them. I always try to give them a little Bible or a little book or something that they could read.
Yeah.
So, get the gospel out. That's what we're all about. And we do it now. We pass out Bibles, tracts, and just, we sell our T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. But we got a lot of things, stuffed animals we give out for free. Anything to evangelize, get the gospel out. So, man,
right.
The world needs it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Definitely does. And just like that, we, it's this conversation has flown by. I look down and it's 2 hours in, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it, because it felt like we just called you. But I do want to get you back in the future, because I feel like even though we've talked a lot, we've barely scratched the surface with you. So we'll definitely get you back for part 2, and you're welcome anytime you want to come on to talk about something, anything you want to talk about. You're welcome here to talk about it. And, any
of the shows around here close to, we got the Clinch River Days coming up, June the 1st down here at the St. Paul. We're bringing in Jimmy Bryant. We're going to do a show. It's going to be in the afternoon. We're probably about 4:00 on a Saturday afternoon. So if you're around,
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try to make that.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
And talk to Jimmy Bryant. We tell you some stories. We get some stuff. We have some fun.
Yeah, we'll do that. Is you can book it, brother. We'll be there, but we just thank you so much, Mike. It's really been an honor to have you on. And I mean, I'm sorry that it took this long to get you on. My brother, he was like, we ought to get Iron Cross on. And I'm like, yes, we definitely should get Iron Cross on. and it took me a little while to find you. I knew you were around, but unfortunately I didn't find you soon enough. But anyway, you're on now. That's the important part. But you really should have been our first guest, honestly, so.
Well, we'll make up for it.
We'll make up for it. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this too. It's like you say, we got a lot more to talk about, but I really enjoyed talking to you guys and appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, we'll call this an official part 1, so. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Mike, and we'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories with us, but also sharing your faith with us and sharing your testimony. It's really been, I think this is one of my definite favorite interviews I've ever done, and it means a lot. And all I had to do was go to my home county, Russell County.
That's right. We're right next door.
Yeah, I know.
But Jared, Jimmy, both of you, God bless you, man, and thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Thank you.
You too.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik with more from Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey everyone, this is Shane from Insane Shane's World. I release wrestling figures of enhancement talent, mid-card wrestlers, and wrestlers that you never thought would have a figure available. So if you're interested in adding a really cool and rare figure to your collection, then don't hesitate to contact me at shamtheman73@gmail.com. That's SHAMtheman73@gmail.com. You can also join my Facebook group. Just search Insane Shane's World.
This is your rock star ring announcer, Aaron Camaro. I'm a man who believes the two greatest art forms ever created are professional wrestling and heavy rock music. So when I'm not hosting the best parties that also happen to be live professional wrestling shows, I'm hosting the Decibel Geek Podcast. Decibel Geek is a weekly podcast that features discussions of all things rock. We're talking the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath, Kiss, Ozzy, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Alice in Chains, Pantera, and everything in between. Plus, we'll turn you on to new bands from today that have the same spirit and style that the legends do. Decibel Geek is hosted by myself along with Rockin' Pod founder Chris Sinzak, and each week you'll get interviews with famous musicians and industry insiders, along with informative, entertaining, humorous, and insightful discussions, and most importantly, a passion for the music. So if you love to rock out as much as I do, then this is your invitation to the greatest rock and roll party in all of podcasting. It's Decibel Geek, and it's available right now on all major podcast platforms. Oh yeah!
Sheik, one more great episode. Iron Cross, man. Mike is awesome. That was cool.
Man, he exceeded expectations as most of our guests have always done for me. It's just that they, you have people on a pedestal in the business, and then you talk to them, and they're just super. I mean, it's and as nice as people are to us, and he's a local hero for the area, and he's done amazing things in the ring, in his church, and everything. Like, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, it was awesome to see, and it was awesome to have him on. It's awesome to get to know him. Very cool things, and definitely going to have him back for part 2. I can't, that's a no-brainer. He's had so many great stories, and honestly, I know he could have done another hour with us just with all the stories, but we'll save that for part 2. But yeah, thank you again, Mike. You're excellent. Go follow him on Facebook, Instagram. I know he's also, Emmanuel Chapel Church. If you're ever in the area, definitely go visit him. He's got a great church there, and they do some great things for the area. And yeah, it would just be cool. I was thinking, man, I wonder if he works some of his old stories into his sermons. That would be kind of cool. So
I'm sure if they're relevant, he does.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, anyway, y'all check him out. I know they're on YouTube and all that good stuff, so definitely give him a follow and support Iron Cross and his ministry. It's a very cool thing, and we greatly appreciate him sharing his story with us. And man, that dude is just jacked, right? He stays just in such great shape.
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely make you envious of a man that's older than you, having much better physique.
Yeah, in way better shape. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Well, we thank you, Iron Cross. We thank you so much for that. And, we do have a cool one coming up next. It's hopefully, and I'm saying within, I want to give it 100%, let's say, but Jamie Dundee is going to be our next guest, and that one's going to be wild and fun, and I'm excited. So we'll have a good one. I've interviewed Jamie a couple times, and he's always got some great stories. So we'll have fun with that. We've got a bunch of cool episodes coming up. Honestly, we've probably, I would say, close to have most of this year booked with guys, and that just blows my mind, man. So
yeah, you keep on booking us up, man, and it's amazing work you do.
Thank you. Well, we do.
Well, yeah. I'm giving credit where it's due.
I appreciate you saying that, though. But, we do appreciate y'all so much. As always, go support us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at GMBMPW. I will say this. I unloaded the clip on all of our stickers, man. We're totally, completely out. I gave away so many stickers to wrestlers, to fans, to, future, hopefully, listeners. It was cool, man, because WWE was local and SmackDown was that night. So there was a ton of fans standing outside, and I just gave them all a bunch of stickers. Just, here you go. Check out our podcast. Here you go. So hopefully, I have seen some more followers coming through. So hopefully that'll, touch base with them, and hopefully they'll get in touch with us and, listen to the show. That's the whole point of those stickers, right? Is to get more people listening. And that's the main important part. But we'll have to do a reorder soon, y'all. If you want some stickers, let us know. But, that's definitely something that it felt good being able to give away some stickers, man. I dig that. So, but anyway, hopefully it turns into listeners. We do appreciate y'all that have listened today. If you haven't heard some of the older episodes, definitely go back and check out our archives. Got some great ones in there. Just honestly, some incredible stories to listen to. So once again, we just want to thank you all so much for being excellent listeners and listening to all of our shows. And we just greatly appreciate y'all supporting this journey that me and my brother are on, and, hopefully we're at least giving you some sort of entertainment or some sort of, information that maybe you didn't know, right? So.
Absolutely. We're having fun, and we hope you're having fun listening and enjoying the journey with us.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the best thing we can say for today. We'll wrap it up here. But once again, thank you to Iron Cross. Great, great man. And if you ever see him in your area, if you're ever in the area, definitely go out of your way to try to catch him while you can. He's one of the real ones, So
absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be back next episode with the Iceman, Jamie Dundee. And other than that, thank y'all for listening.
Don't forget,
fight forever.
With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
This has been a James Rock Street production.